Michael Waltrip twice, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and last year, Jimmy Johnson.
Mike, when you win most races in Nextel Cup, you're able to celebrate them and they stay with you for about a week before you go to the next race. When you win the Daytona 500, it doesn't stay with you for the rest of your career. It's with you for the rest of your life.
Happy to have you with us today, watching in high definition on Fox the cars in the east banking of this super speedway, which will turn 50 in another year. 31-degree banking, steeper than the roof on your house, and look at that crowd. They will rise as one as the pace car looks toward pit road.
DW, I've been waiting about 7 or 8 months to tell you this, buddy. It's going to be a wild ride. Next time by, over 180 miles per hour, 2 wide, 3 wide. Reach up there and pull those belts tight. One more time.
Boogity, boogity, boogity. Oh, yeah, boys, let's go racing.
Sitter David Gilliland lead the first lap.
I think he can lead the first one, and I think he can probably lead the last one, the way that car has performed down here the last week and a half.
That's worth 5 bonus points. If you lead a lap in a Nextel Cup race, 5 bonus points put on your points total for the year.
And all those butterflies and all that anticipation, that's over with now. We got to put our work clothes on and get busy.
And there they are already. It didn't take them long. 3 wide. We'll talk about that a lot. These cars bouncing around at over 180 miles per hour.
And right now you can do that. The tires are good. They're fresh tires, good grip. You can get 3 wide and move around right now, but that'll change after a while.
Jeff Burton moving up 4th on the inside lane, now moving up into 7th spot as Gilliland's Ford brings them around for the 2nd time.
And Mike, don't forget, we had rain here last night. This is a green racetrack, so this is the first time these guys have run on this track with it in this condition.
And of course what he means is, as far as a green racetrack, all the rubber was washed off, and that'll take it where it doesn't have near as much grip.
Yeah, God, Holmes adjusting his set. Hey, I need a track turn green while we're away.
Kyle Busch way up high, 3 wide, right behind Ricky Rudd, the car you're riding with. There's Tony the Tiger peeking out. That's Kyle Busch. He's had trouble finding drafting partners this week, but he's got a fast car.
David Gilliland, he's got to be sitting there thinking, wow, I'm leading the Daytona 500, and the guy that's won all the races is running behind me. This is cool.
That would be Tony Stewart. Big Orange riding in 2nd spot.
And Big Orange is a teammate, well, sort of. They are co-opetitors. Dale Jr. is right behind him.
On the outside lane, Kurt Busch in that blue deuce. He's been the best of the Dodges this week, as you watch from Dale Jr.
You know, a Dodge hadn't won this race since, I don't know, back in the 70s. Richard Petty was the last one to win here in a Dodge.
But for Ward Burton in 2002, you're right. Dodge had a big string of success here, but it was a long drought until Ward Burton went to victory lane.
Riding with Michael Waltrip right here in the 55 car right now. Michael in the 14th position. That's about where he started. This is a backup car after the infraction in qualifying, and he got very little practice. Had to race his way in a dual race, sitting up there holding his own right now with that Toyota.
I think you'll see Michael will race great. He's always driven well here. He's always run well here, no matter what car he was in. It's got to be a thrill for him, too, Mike, driving his own race car for the first time.
We saw Kyle Busch in that 5 car go straight from the top, straight into the middle of the pack. He has had a fast race car. The car right there, the blue and yellow car right in the middle. Oh, Tony the Tiger on the hood.
Now, I think he's got to be patient and not make a lot of moves like that right there. He's been fast down here for the last 10 days, but he's got to be patient and have that thing around to finish. There's another guy I think we're going to hear a lot about today, too, in that 12 car going under Kyle Busch, Ryan Newman. I think he and his teammate, Kyle's brother, Kurt, I think they got some of these guys.
Second place, the battle. Kurt Busch on the outside of Tony Stewart. Chevy against Dodge behind Gilliland's Ford in the lead.
Been talking about Kurt Busch in that 2-car Dodge. Another Dodge, David Stremme in the 40. You see him peeking out to the high side right
Number
here.
eight.
Yeah, he's smoking. Saw a bunch of smoke. I don't know. It could be, you know, they got the fluid levels right up to the top. It could just be a little excess fluid somewhere.
Happened over the little bit of bumps in the middle of turn 2, Darrell.
It could be a little haze off the tires. Could be a little overflow in one of the fluid levels is a little high. Let's see if we can get a better look at it down here in turns 1 and 2. See him down on the bottom right there. He's down low and it's rough down there, real bumpy. Car moves around. Yeah, I think that's tire smoke.
And of course, they start the air pressure in these tires fairly low because they know they're going to gain a lot of air pressure over the course of a long run.
And just think how excited we got. Just think how excited he got. I'm smoking.
Here's what Denny Hamlin saw right behind Junior.
Too wide.
Yeah, that's just
Clear high if you need it.
that's dust. That's what he wants to do to the field if he gets a chance.
David Gilliland has led every one of 6 laps so far. Tony Stewart's been locked onto his rear bumper, and Kurt Busch in that blue Dodge trying to work the outside with help from David Stremme.
Remember we watched practice the other day and the 38 car sat there and did this lap after lap. You said, why does he keep doing that? Because he can.
Because he can, right. Steve Burns.
Yeah, Mike, but that's a good point because as crew chief Todd Parrott, as I said right before the race, told him stay on the bottom and be patient. He said that's the problem. David knows he has a car good enough to win the Daytona 500.
Yeah, and what a rookie doesn't want to do is if these guys gang up on him like they are right now and he should fall back in the pack, don't panic.
Right.
But he knows right now, especially early in a run, that yellow line, that's his best friend.
Yeah, because you can't go below the yellow line. If you do, you'll be penalized.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. had a bobble and almost backed into Kevin Harvick in the Pennzoil car.
You know, that little bit of smoke we saw, that could be a tire that there's a problem with.
But you could look through that windshield. You could see his hands. He's pretty busy in that 8 car.
And look, everybody's giving him a lot of room, Darrell.
I mean, right now we are 8 laps into this race, and we still have 38 cars within 3 seconds of each other.
And the Pied Piper is the young man, 31 years old, from Riverside, California, son of a veteran racer and champion. David Gilliland grew up as crew chief on his father Butch's car.
Plain or peanut?
David Gilliland still leading. He's led every lap of 12 so far. Time for our AT&T Singular Virtual Crew Chief question. Chevy's won the last 6 of the last 8 500s. Which manufacturer has the best chance to break that string? To answer, text the word crew to 191 on your AT&T Singular wireless phone. Singular is the new AT&T.
Boy, I just saw a lot of give and take as we ride with Jeff Burton right there, which is a great move just 12 laps into this race. You could see Jeff Green in the 66 go up in front of him off turn 2. You could hear Burton roll out of the throttle. Good move, good give and take early in the race.
Yeah, here we are coming to lap 13, and what you're going to hear over the radios right now is in the beginning, I'm a little loose. Wait a minute. I'm getting to be a little tight now. The car's tightening up some, and that's probably what's happening to most of these cars. They're going through a real transition right now. They're burning off some fuel and they're putting some laps on the tires. This is when you know what you got.
And just to educate our new viewers, when we're talking about loose, we're talking about the back end coming around. When we're talking about tight, the driver's turning the front wheel, but the front wheels are just sliding.
The best explanation of loose and tight is you hit the wall with the rear of the car when you're loose, you hit the wall with the front of the car when you're pushing.
There you go.
David Gilliland has led every lap. Tony Stewart right on his bumper. What about 3-time Daytona 500 winner Jeff Gordon? Gordon's hasn't had an easy start here. He is 21st, and he may have a little bit of damage on the right side of that flame-painted Chevrolet. Top of your screen, right corner. Here he comes.
Just ran out of racetrack there at that turn 2, which is the worst turn we have here. You just run out of racetrack.
What I saw mostly was blue smoke, though, as if the tires were hitting the wall, but maybe not so much body. What are they saying down there, Burns?
Hey, DW, Jeff Gordon says to crew chief Steve Letarte, we are good, but we'll deal with that right rear. He did scrape the wall a little bit in turn 2. Steve Letarte said, no problem, I like your pace.
He's got a great pace. Remember, he started 42nd in this field, 14 laps into it. He's moved up halfway through the field. He's up to 20th right now.
Elevator up, elevator down. 88, the Snickers car. Ricky Rudd started outside pole. He has slid to 20th.
That's nothing to snicker about, I can tell you. I'm sorry, Mike. I couldn't resist.
But I think we have seen all week long that even though the 88 car, the teammate to David Gilliland, Ricky Rudd, even though he qualified on the outside of the front row, that car has not been as strong as the 38 car.
And the number to look at right here is minus 2.9, now minus 3 seconds. That gap is increasing at the lower right of your screen between the leader and this car.
Sometimes the veterans, though, they'll fall back. They'll just kind of fall back to the rear of the field and kind of scope things out and analyze things a little bit.
Kevin Harvick trying to move up, new colors for that Richard Childress number 29 this year. He's up to 13th, Matt.
Really on the move, Mike, that Chevrolet. Now, he said the car is really good balance-wise. Not talking about what kind of adjustments, but a lot of guys are talking about if we get a caution from 0 to 15 laps into a run, teams are talking about the 2-tire scenario, but they've got to be very careful.
Trouble.
Oh, trouble.
Back straight away. One car sliding toward the wall and stops short.
Boris said the 60 car had to race his way in.
Nothing. In the grass in the back straightaway. You all right, Boris?
Caution will wave.
First caution of the day, and it looked to be as if it could have been a single car incident. The veteran road racing champion is going to run half a dozen or so cup races in a car from out of Jack Rouse's shops.
We've seen so much trouble off of turn 2, and again, we'll just point out it's a lot to do with the wind, and then of course you come down off of turn 2 out of the banking over there, the track really flattens out as you come down out of the banking.
Watch the number 60, bottom of your screen.
On the bottom. Wow.
It just looked like that car had that 4-wheel drift up off the corner onto the backstretch.
It's almost what happened to Michael in the qualifying race when he got into Dale Jr. That thing just took off, baby. Bam, just like that.
First caution of the day in Daytona.
The Daytona 500 Odd Box is sponsored by Dodge. You can take life as it comes, or you can grab life by the horns. Dodge. By Napa Auto Parts. Napa, get the good stuff. By Coca-Cola. Thanks for drinking. And by Nextel, only from Sprint, helping NASCAR Nextel Cup fans get more done.
We're under caution at Daytona. David Gilliland led the first 18 laps of this race. Everyone has come to pit road. Kurt Busch and his Roger Penske crew got off pit road first. 2 cars I want you to watch right there is one, David Gilliland, and way up there is the other, the 55 of Michael Waltrip. Or Boris said, excuse me, Boris said in the 60.
Boris's car right here just takes it. I mean, it just never turns. It's like the front wheels are off the ground, and he just slams into the side of Rudeman in the Domino's Burger King car.
And Darrell, you said Michael was closing fast.
He was closing so fast. I'm not so sure they didn't have to lift or something there to. I tell you, you know, they've done a lot of. Look at the rear wheels come off the ground. They've done a lot of things to these racetracks, but paving that back straightaway like that. That's one of the best things they ever did. Otherwise, he'd be flipping by now.
Especially if you go get on grass like he is now. But fortunately, the speed of the car is slow enough. It's not a big deal. Pretty much everyone came to pit road, changed 4 tires. Roy McCauley, that 2 bunts, they won the battle off pit road for Kurt Busch. Very busy place here, 19 laps in there.
There's the race off pit road with Gilliland second, Tony Stewart third. And here's Krista.
A great stop for the number 2 crew. Small changes to keep up with the track. That is the plan for them all day long. This time it was a half pound of air pressure in the right rear and 4 tires and fuel. Steve?
Small adjustment for David Gilliland, Krista. They took just a little bit of air pressure out of the left rear tire. David's saying his car was just a little bit tight in 1 and 2. He also congratulated his crew on a fine stop, Dick.
Over the last 3 years, Tony Stewart has led more laps here at Daytona than anybody else, although he is yet to lead a lap today. Minor adjustment and 4 tires on that pit stop. Matt.
Dale Jr.'s last plate win was 2004 Talladega. No changes on their car the last stop. Jr. is just cruising. They were just past their window, possibly going with a 2-tire strategy change.
Kurt Busch, Gilliland, Stewart, Earnhardt, Newman are the first 5. Now, David Gilliland, he may be a Daytona 500 rookie, but watch this. He's got to race Tony Stewart, who's in the next pit stall down, out of his pit, and you'll see he gives Stewart no quarter and races him hard until they get up to the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, and Gilliland edges ahead.
It's a drag race. He beat him out of the box.
A look from our DLP HD cam, floating cable mounted over the speedway. Phil Parsons was the honorary starter, waved the first green flag. The second one is in the wind. Kurt Busch out front.
It was a single file restart since all 43 cars that we have out there are still on the lead lap.
In the shadows of turns 1 and 2 on the west side of the speedway, they pop back into the sunlight. Exiting 2 down the backstretch, that's where the wind whistles right at them.
See right here as we ride with Dale Earnhardt Jr., you can see the speed building right here. They run the carburetor restrictor plate that takes the horsepower of the engine down. It takes well over a full lap at this 2.5-mile racetrack to get totally up to speed. You can see he's still gaining speed.
This racetrack, Mike, is such a contradiction. I mean, we want to slow the cars down. These are race cars. You bump into your friends. You bump draft your friends. Anywhere else, we kind of take it out on our friends. Everything here is almost like a contradiction.
You're right, Darrell. Several years ago, NASCAR mandated the restrictor plates to slow the cars well below 200 miles an hour. Without the plates, folks estimate the pole speed here would exceed 220 miles an hour.
Oh, 230, I bet you, Mike. I bet it'd be incredible.
For the lead, Stewart looked, Busch to block.
I'm telling you, on turn 4, Tony Stewart in that 20 car, he turned her dead left, and then now they have kicked our pole sitter, David Gilliland, in 38. He's probably going to go from 2nd back to about 7th to get back in line behind David Strimmy in the 40 car.
But he didn't. But what I like is he didn't say, I got to get back in line. I got to get back in line. He didn't force it. He fell to the end of the line. He'll get back up there.
That's another contradiction, Darrell. Patience at 185 miles an hour. Stewart and Jr. hooked up. Familiar drafting partners. Stewart helped draft Jr. to his Daytona 500 win.
That would be my biggest worry if I was another competitor. Those 2 cars getting hooked up. I think it's all over this early in the race if they do.
Stewart looks high. Busch comes up. Stewart looks low. How wide is the track and how much of it can Kurt Busch take up?
But now we're riding with Dale Earnhardt Jr., who moved to the high side. And he has Kurt Busch's teammate, Ryan Newman, in the 12 pushing him.
Can I tell you one thing?
Please.
That irritated Tony Stewart to death. He does not like to be raced against like that this early in the race. Where are you going?
Now Jr. has eased off, and he'll fall to 6th or 7th. If you get kicked out of line and nobody goes with you, Darrell, it's pretty much a certainty where you're headed.
Well, there's a lake out there, and you become one of those sitting ducks.
Now, because this group up here wasn't satisfied running single file, that 7-car lead pack is about to become about an 18-car lead pack.
Jeff Burton bringing the second group along. They got a little scattered out on the restart. Now it's becoming one big freight train again. Here's our singular virtual crew chief response. Chevrolet's won 19 of 48 500s. It can another make win today. And you said Ford, Dodge, Toyota. We'll get you that.
The thing about these restarts right now, these early cautions, Mike, the reason they get scattered out like this is they're single file. There are no lap cars to start on the inside. So when you restart this thing, the leader's coming by the start-finish line. If you're back there in 30th or further back, you're coming off turn 4 almost. You're going to lose a lot of ground.
Boy, Tony Stewart in the 20 car. Now he has Kyle Busch in the 5. We know he's had a fast race car all week long. He's been looking left and right. But now Kurt Busch continues to block these guys.
And what we saw in the first couple of laps of this race, Steve Burns, is that Kyle Busch was making sudden moves. Fairly aggressive moves to go lane to lane, but sudden moves. And I wonder, Steve, maybe that's why he's having a little trouble finding some drafting help.
Well, Mike, I know I can tell you this about his race car. He did make some sudden moves, but his car became very tight early in this race, particularly on the exit of the corners. What they did was they made a track bar adjustment. They went up 2 rounds to fix that tight condition. Dick?
A few laps ago, Darrell Waltrip complimented David Stremme on being cool when he got kicked toward the back of the pack. Yesterday, in happy hour, the final practice session, Stremme played with the rest of the field, went all the way to the back, and worked his way all the way to the front. And moments before the start of the Daytona 500, he told me he has a car that can pass anywhere, anytime.
He's trying to prove it right now, Dick. That is Stremme in the number 40 on the outside, the lead car in the outside lane. Here's our singular virtual crew chief answer. Ford has the best chance of going to victory lane aside from Chevrolet this year, you said.
One thing I see in Tony Stewart, Larry, Mike, is last year he had a car capable of winning this race. He got in a bunch of little skirmishes out on the racetrack. He and Jeff Gordon off turn 2. He and Matt Kenseth down the back. I think he let his temper and his judgment get the best of him last year. I see a little bit more patience in him this year, like we talked about a little bit ago.
There's no doubt that one of the keys to winning this race, keep your emotions in check.
If you're going to win the big one, you got to play big.
Tony Stewart finished 5th here last year in the race won by Jimmy Johnson, who went on to win the Nextel Cup. .30 laps, 75 miles complete in the 49th annual Daytona 500. Pole sitter David Gilliland led the first 18 laps. From there, it's been this number 2 of Kurt Busch at 185 miles an hour. They're the top Dodge Chargers in the race. Busch, David Stremme, and Ryan Newman, all in the top 10.
Pretty impressed with the Chargers down here. They seem like they've had speed, but with the new front end, the new nose on this Dodge Charger, it just looks like these cars are driving good, which is something they suffered from a lot last year.
Yeah, they politicked all last year to get a nose change. They came with that new nose last year, and it didn't work for them. And they tried every way they could to get NASCAR to give them a concession, but it took the offseason to get it done. And now they look like everybody else. Difference not always better.
You know, we probably should update our current reigning Nextel Cup champion and the defending champion of this race, Jimmy Johnson, in that 48 car right now. We're riding with him. You can see he's in what we call the sucker hole in the middle group there where you just can't go. And Darrell, I agree totally and know why you asked him what you did in the pre-race. You just don't look like you've been flexing your muscle, and you see him losing ground right here.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's running that well, and it seems like it's not handling that well.
Don't worry. Jimmy told me this morning this car is bad fast. It will come to him. Matt?
Handling wise, they thought this car was almost excellent in final practice, but Jimmy's been a little bit on the tight side. Now, unlike last year, Earl Barbin is not his spotter. Stevie Reeves, the former USAC champion, has come on board. Basically, Chad called him 3 times, Jimmy called him 5 times. And Stevie said, when you have guys like that that want you so badly, even though it's a high-pressure situation, you got to jump at the chance.
Well, Matt, he has a different spotter, but remember, he also has a different car from what he won the 500 with last year. When you win the Daytona 500, Daytona USA, right behind the Speedway, takes your car, puts it on display for a year. They got that car back about 2 hours ago.
Well, they do give you $100,000, Larry, to lease it to them for the year, but it's not like you have a choice.
No.
I don't know. Most of these guys would be glad to give them their car.
Oh, yeah. About 43 of them.
Yeah.
If Kurt Busch looks to his right rear, there's a train a-coming, and it's Tony Stewart, Kevin Harvick, and the rest of those drivers, David Stremme, Matt Kenseth, Jeff Burton, and everybody else in the outside lane hunting the lead on the backstretch.
I like Harvick. I tell you, he's had a good week down here. His car's been fast, and whoops, excuse me. Kyle Busch just made a serious right-hand turn right in front of him. That's some of that give and take, though. You got to be willing to do it this early in the race. People are going to do that to you.
Look at Kyle Busch's car, the 5 car, going through the corner there at well over 185 miles per hour. You can see the back end just going up and down and dancing as we still got a battle for the lead, but Kurt Busch puts the block on Tony Stewart in the 20.
That's how important it is to stay up front, though. You get back in traffic like maybe Jeff Gordon has been and maybe even Jimmy Johnson. These cars don't handle the same back there amongst all of them as it does out there by itself.
You're running flat out, Darrell, but every time you change lane, it takes away a little momentum. And look at the consequence. It brings the whole field right to you.
Well, that, and then we're into a run here a few laps now, and the tire's starting to go away a little bit, and that throttle's hard to hold down once these tires give up.
20 cars out of control.
That was Kurt Busch. Krista?
Yeah, a lot of communication going on down here. Roy McCauley just telling Kurt, yeah, I know, Tony, I've warned him a couple times, so they're trying to get word down from one pit to another. Kurt, though, is really concerned with how the tires are wearing. Darrell, you're just talking about that. He just asked his crew chief, how many laps have I got on these tires right now? It's 15 laps on the tires, Roy McCauley just told him. So that's what he's concerned with right now.
Well, the teams are going through a little learning curve right now. Take a set off. The track was, like we said, didn't have any, it rained overnight. A little different racetrack than we've seen here for the last 2 weeks. Got to get some data. Oh, let up, Junior. Let up, boy.
Boy, Elliott Sadler backing up in a quick hurry there.
And he had really been making a move to the front, but he got caught in the middle right there.
Come outside, Junior. Come outside.
18 laps led for David Gilliland, the pole sitter. Kurt Busch will lead his 18th lap this time around.
I want the cup.
Nearly 40 laps into the Daytona 500. Kurt Busch, who has twice finished second in this race, currently your leader. His owner, Roger Penske, has won 14 Indy 500s. But hoping that Kurt Busch could give him a Daytona 500. A quick Fox racing break. If you're just tuning in, we're glad to have you along. David Gilliland, his first Daytona 500, starting on the pole and leading the first 18 laps. Ricky Rudd, Robert Yates racing alongside. Dale Earnhardt Jr. starting 5th, bouncing between 6th and 10th most of this race. Jeff Gordon, who was at the back of the pack, scrapes the wall.
Yeah, he does a little bit of a Daytona slam off of turn 2. And that was followed just a lap or two later, on lap 16, whenever Bourset come up and slammed into the 00 of David Rudman. Around he went, bringing out the first caution.
Daytona slam, all of the Darlington straight, but Jeff Gordon working his way back up.
Yeah, he may have started 42nd. He really is coming up through here right now. He is looking like he's got a good hand on the race car, and that shot did not help him. It didn't look like.
Jeff Gordon, one of those drivers, 4 others working without their crew chiefs because of rule infractions and penalties handed out this week.
So far, everything looks pretty good. These guys all look very competitive right now. I think that, Michael Waltrip's the only one that's kind of struggling early on, but look for Michael to rally back.
Actually, Steve Letarte working with Jeff Gordon, who is hoping for another Daytona 500. Let's rejoin Darrell, Larry, and Mike.
5-car breakaway at the front of the field, Chris. Kurt Busch, Tony Stewart, Kurt's younger brother Kyle Busch, David Gilliland, Ryan Newman. And then it's about a half a second back to Kevin Harvick in 6th. That yellow car of Harvick's has come from 34th starting position. Big climb, biggest gainer of the day. Ahead of his teammate Jeff Burton, Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Matt Kenseth.
I think what I just heard on that audio, if you notice, Tony Stewart is starting to lay back just a little bit off Kurt Busch. These guys run a tremendous amount of tape on the front end openings where the air goes in to cool the radiator and the oil cooler. And it sounds like maybe they have too much tape. He's starting to run hot. That's the reason he's not tucked right up on the 2-car Kurt Busch right now.
And something that's playing out just like I saw in the qualifying races is the 48 and the 24 and the 25, the Hendrick cars that have been so dominant on these restrictor plate tracks, they appear to be struggling to me. They just don't have the speed that they have had in the past.
Well, none of those cars, Darrell, were very fast in the last practice yesterday either.
And really, I mean, Jeff won his qualifying race, we know that, but he did it on pit strategy. He come in, he grabbed a couple of tires and was able to get the lead there at the very end.
There's Gordon, splashing past in his 24.
And the thing about those good race teams like that, here he comes right there, as you can see, but you never know what their strategy is. They might just be riding along, who knows.
You know, it almost looked like that last time off turn 2 again, the 24 car, Jeff Gordon, just all but against the wall again. And we're getting a report that he did skim the wall just a little bit.
Well, let's have a look.
There he is up behind Jimmy. And you know what? I think it looked like something happened to Jimmy Johnson because I saw smoke come out of his tailpipe. Let's see if he lets off. Oh, yeah, he let off.
And he hit the wall as well.
And that sucked Gordon in there with him.
Got to run. Side. 26 coming to you with a big push.
Some of that handling, some of it could be these huge wind gusts that we're having that hit the cars just as they come down off the turn 2 banking. Steve.
Mike, listening to Jeff Gordon in that 24 car, the longer the run goes, the tighter his race car gets. When he first gets the new tires on, he feels great, but right now that car continues to tighten up. Matt.
Air pressure change in the last stop, Steve, did not help Jimmy Johnson's balance. The car still tight. And Larry Mack, you talked about that Daytona 500 winner from a year ago. Chad Canal started building this very race car back in July 2006.
Oh, yeah, it's something these guys work on well before the old season actually ends. But I think a couple of things that's happening. As Darrell mentioned earlier in the broadcast that the racetrack was green from being washed off last night. Now some rubbers get down on the track as we're 44 laps into this race. And that kind of sometimes can enhance the car not wanting to turn. Plus, this is the longest green run. You burn fuel off, the car gains nose weight, and that actually magnifies the push too.
Yeah, I want to try to give you a visual to go along with some of this explanation about why cars are hitting the wall off of turn 2. As we look back down the straightaway, as they come off of turn 2, you see how the cars come down, what we call down out of the banking.
Possibly a problem, Darrell, on the 17 of Matt Kenseth. Let's check with Krista.
Yeah, Matt said he thinks he may be getting a flat left rear tire. He said the car is so tight he cannot do anything with it.
Yeah, you can see he's had to move the car up to the top of the racetrack now and continues to lose a few positions.
He's at 10th place right now, just in front of Stremme, right behind his Roush Racing teammate, Carl Edwards.
As you come off turn 2, back there, what I was going to tell you is you come off turn 2, you run out of, as soon as you run out of banking, the track kind of flattens out, and the crosswind that we've got right now, it's basically just pushing the car right into the wall.
And Darrell, at these speeds, it doesn't take much of a push, does it?
Oh no, you've heard us say you can walk up one of these cars in the middle of the corner and touch it, it'll spin out. Especially if you touch it with a 3,400-pound race car.
Tony Stewart in that 20 car, he is trying every bit of this racetrack to try to get by Kurt Busch in the 2 car, with Kurt's brother Kyle in the 5 pushing him.
Still time to register your choice for today's Domino's Hot Lap. Text your selection among today's top 5 qualifiers to FOXSP on any wireless phone.
Definitely seeing the cars get strung out just a little bit, and I think a lot is because, as we mentioned, we're on the longest green flag run that we've had here today, and we're getting well past the halfway point of that. In fact, about 15 laps away probably from a pit stop.
Well, these cars run off of momentum. I mean, you have a limited amount of horsepower. If you start having to burp that throttle just a little bit, even if you don't think you're lifting, oh, I'm not lifting that much, it slows them down. And that's what's happening. Some of these cars, the handling's gone off. They're having to squeeze up out of that throttle just a little bit.
Dick Berger and Tony Stewart has been in 2nd place almost this entire race.
Yeah, he has. My car is pushing a little bit, but the interesting story here is that envoys from both of the Penske teams, Kurt Busch and Ryan Newman, have been down here to Stewart's pit so that they can get together and pit together. Matt?
Kevin Harvick predicted before the race that you would see people break away in packs. He's been trying to stay in line with the 12 car of Ryan Newman. He was glad to see those guys in the front get dicey so he and Newman can slowly try to reel back in that lead pack.
Got a lead change, guys. He finally made it.
Tony Stewart to the outside, second lead change today. Ooh, Kyle Busch.
Well, what Kyle sees is the 12 car coming. 12's going to jump down behind the 2.
You're clear.
And more than likely, they could both. They're both going to go right back by Kyle. That's why he wanted to help Tony as much as he could to try to keep that from happening.
Kyle, the younger of the Busch brothers, in the 5. Ryan Newman in the blue 12. He is the teammate to Kurt Busch. Let's have another look at that as Tony Stewart comes to the front of the race he most wants to win.
Just swings to the outside, gets a lot of momentum right there, gets a good push from the 5 from behind, and you can see he left the 2 car sitting out.
But Darrell, does he complete that pass if the 5 doesn't go with him?
Well, I think he could get out there. He probably wouldn't have been able to stay in front of him.
So Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch's brother, did away with that part of it, went with another Chevrolet to complete that pass.
Imagine that. Tony Stewart, 2-time series champion, is the 3rd driver to lead today's Daytona 500. Tony Stewart continues to lead at 53 laps, 53 of 200 complete. Aerial coverage brought to you by Goodyear, helping NASCAR drivers get to the finish line for the past 25 years. Goodyear, get there. It's big, it's bad, it's victory red. Go to foxsports.com/Silverado for your chance to meet Dale Jr. and drive away in his all-new 2007 Chevy Silverado. Jr. right now in 8th place behind Tony Stewart, Kurt Busch, Ryan Newman, David Gilliland, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, and Jeff Burton. Carl Edwards and David Stremme round out the top 10.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with hanging out back around the top 10 or 15 right now. Nothing really happening up front. A little dicing and slicing for the lead every now and then. But basically, you're just trying to get to your next stop, make another adjustment. I tell you, though, these guys are working hard right now, Larry. Look inside of Casey Kane's car right here. Look at him work that wheel. That car is hitting the bumps in the track and bouncing him around. Look at his head move. That's how he's working hard, and every muscle in his body is tense. That's Mikey right there. He's a little more relaxed, but you can tell his car is tight. Look where his right hand was. Way over to the left.
Ricky Rudd, outside pole sitter.
It's a lot of pressure on you, and every muscle in your body is tense.
You know, going looking at Michael Waltrip, as he got up on the straightaway, you could see him almost exercising his right hand, which tells me he's having to work that steering wheel pretty hard, just relaxing it, resting a little bit up on the straightaway.
You'll catch yourself after a while saying, man, I got to relax. You're just so tensed up trying to hang on to that thing.
Little talk between the 2 and the 20, the 2 leading cars, Tony Stewart and Kurt Busch's cars, about when to pit.
See, there's another contradiction. Working with the other guys. You're supposed to be trying to beat them.
Consorting with the enemy.
Yeah.
What do you call it, though, Darrell? Co-opetition.
Yeah. You do what you got to do right now.
But let's explain why these guys want to come to pit road together. You would think you would want to be on there with a wide open pit road, but we know how the draft works here. We know how much faster cars lined up are versus a car by yourself. So when you comes time for your green flag pit stop, you would like to be on there, I think, in the perfect world with about 10 or 12 cars. That way you come in together. You got to make sure you're all on the same strategy, which I'd say most of these guys will change 4 tires. That way you leave together and you can get back up to speed quicker as a pack.
But see, it's strategy. That's a Chevrolet leading the race. That's a Dodge running 2nd and 3rd, but they're going to work together right now because it's in their best interest.
Who's your best friend?
Your buddy out there, whoever's leading the race.
The guy that can help you the most.
That's right.
Who's near you that's fastest? This is just the first race of the Nextel Cup season. Next Sunday we'll be at California Speedway in Fontana, the Auto Club 500 on Fox. Matt?
Mike Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s new best friend is Jeff Burton. That's who he wants to run with right now. Junior's running the high line down in 1 and 2. The car just way too tight down in 3 and 4. They should hit pit road on or about lap 64. Deals already being made. One of Kevin Harvick's crew members has been up and down pit road. We saw Matt Borland down talking to the 55 team. Everybody trying to get together to pit.
Thanks, Matt. It takes 49 seconds to lap this track. And right now, 25 seconds behind is the Haviland Dodge for Formula One Ace 1 Pablo Montoya. He says the car is really tight. He goes in the corner, car doesn't want to turn.
And I'm watching the lap times. This backs up what I was talking about running by yourself. Right now, he is a second slower by himself versus a group of cars running together.
And I think part of that could be, it's not that maybe there's something wrong with the car. If you're not accustomed to really hanging in the draft, and you got to be quick on these restarts and get out of the pits with all the good cars, this is what can happen to you.
The team's getting ready to pit in just a few laps. We'll take a pit stop now. 58 laps complete in the Daytona 500 on Fox.
The Daytona 500 on Fox is sponsored by Chevy. The most wins in NASCAR history. An American revolution.
All three Evernham cars pit together under green. The Dodges of Casey Kane, Elliott Sadler, and Scott Riggs. And Riggs came in tight to the wall, anticipating a two-tire change. They had a little trouble getting 4 on, and Riggs will lose quite a bit of time there.
In the lap before that, we had 3 cars that hit pit road. The 2 Toyotas of Michael Waltrip and Dale Jarrett, as well as the 7-car Ford of Robbie Gordon.
Here's Tony Raines in. Terry Labonte, a past champion of the series, drove this car here last year. Raines picking up the ride. He was signed in the preseason, but he and Labonte shared the ride in 2006. 2 leaders haven't changed as Montoya comes to pit road.
Montoya, yeah. This is when, Larry, as you well know, you sit on that pit box and hold your breath.
Well, in the perfect
world,
things
cycled through.
Yeah, in the perfect world, you're going to go down a lap here making a 4-tire stop on the green. So in the perfect world, what you hope is it cycles through the entire green flag pit stops without a caution falling in there.
10 cars in line, all coming to pit road at the same time, Steve.
Hey, Mike, Juan Pablo Montoya is saying his car is silly tight. He said, I can't even run around on the apron. They made a huge adjustment on the track bar on the 42.
2 of the 3 Childress cars in, and a big group this time. Dave Blaney, Jeff Gordon is in, Jamie McMurray, and more. Matt?
And the 31 of Burton is in, as well as the 1 of Truex. They're making a chassis adjustment on the 1 of Truex. Burton, they want to go back on the air pressure. The car was too loose in the middle of the corner, and it was tight on exit.
Ricky Rudd, David Stremme, Mark Martin among those who pit this time. Reed Sorensen in.
I don't believe Montoya's problem is a new problem. I saw him talking to Donnie Wingo, and he had his arms crossed up like he was trying to show him how hard he was having to turn the thing to the left. That was in practice yesterday.
Here's Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch on pit road. Jimmy Johnson coming as well as you watch on board Johnson, along with his teammate Casey Mears, Sterling Marlin, and Ken Schrader. Steve?
Kyle Busch in the 5-car on pit road, Mike. They made a track bar adjustment, but they got way too tight. This time they're going to adjust with wedge. Matt?
Chassis adjustment already completed for Kevin Harvick Chevrolet. His car at the end of that run just gone to the tight side. Significant changes on the 48. The defending 500 winner Jimmy Johnson. His car was very tough to hold on to. You saw him graze the wall. Service almost complete. He's finally down and away.
3 leaders in. Tony Stewart, Kurt Busch, David Gilliland, and the 12 of Ryan Newman. Krista?
The number 2 of Kurt Busch is in, hoping for the kind of stop they had last time where they got out first. This time, another air pressure adjustment. Dick Berggren.
Burton stops his car absolutely perfectly. They are going to make a minor chassis adjustment in this car. All 7 men over the wall worked this team last year. Steve?
Adjustment for David Gilliland as well. He stalled the car exiting pit road. It's a little bit tight. Matt?
The 8 of Dale Earnhardt Jr., they've already made their chassis adjustment. He, like so many others, car just fighting a little bit tight, worse on one end than the other. He smokes him as he leaves his pit stall number 1.
A little bit worried about Gilliland. He came into pit really, really hot on entering down here, and then he killed the engine as he left. So that was a little bit of a disaster for him. And I hope NASCAR didn't get him for speeding.
Another rookie, David Reagan, veteran Mike Wallace. And all 3 Joe Gibbs-owned cars, Stewart, J.J. Yaley, and Denny Hamlin, all came in on the same lap.
Here's what I'm talking about, Mike. You can see how far back he is behind Tony Stewart and Kurt Busch. And here comes the 38 Gilliland. And, man, he can't get it wound up. He's got the brakes locked up, smoking the tires. He gets his stop finally.
He had to beat at 55 miles per hour by the time he got to that yellow line, which is where the commit cone is.
And NASCAR has reported that he did slow his speed sufficiently before he got to the next scoring loop on pit road. No penalty on David Gilliland.
Good for him.
Well, it took us about 5 to 6 laps to cycle through the green flag stops. There's your leader right there, Tony Stewart, the 20 car, with Kurt Busch in the 2 in tow, and they've actually pulled a little bit away from Ryan Newman in the 12 and David Gilliland in the 38.
Yes, good job, guys.
Stewart to his crew, led by Kensington, Connecticut's Greg Zipadelli.
I tell you, the 20 car has been on such a roll down here. He's just qualified well. He's won 3 races already. Looking good.
Where's the rest of the field? About 2 seconds behind the lead duo of Stewart and Kurt Busch. 66 laps complete.
The Daytona 500 on Fox is sponsored by the new Ford Super Duty, built to work harder for you. By DirecTV. Just say ride shotgun on race day with NASCAR Hot Pass only on DirecTV. By DLP HD TV, powered by DLP. It's amazing. It's the mirrors. And by Domino's Pizza. Check us out at Team Domino's.
70 laps complete in the Daytona 500. Tony Stewart and Kurt Busch had about 2 seconds on the field last time by. The pack cut it to 1.6, and they are closing in on the lead duo. Fox Sports and Texas Instruments team up this year to bring a memorable moment to you from each track. The DLP Amazing Moment revisits the rich, exciting history of NASCAR. 2003. This won't make Ryan Newman's highlight reel, but it sure made ours. DLP, it's amazing. It's the mirrors.
Tell you one thing, I was just watching, guys. 38 car way back, and man, he got us pull off at turn 2 over there, and he's on the back bumper of these guys now. That thing is bad fast.
Let's show you what happened to Gilliland coming off turn 4 a couple laps ago. Watch the 38.
Ooh. That car's handling good, though. It'll handle on the apron.
I was going to say, though, I think that's the one thing that they have had, Todd Parrott as crew chief, they've had all week long. I talked to Todd. His car is turning so good, he just turned it down there, and it went down on the apron.
And look what's happened to the lead. Stewart and Busch were all by themselves out single file, but the 5 cars behind them teamed up, ran single file, and ran the leaders down.
And yeah, I was watching them. As long as they were lined up, they were beating Tony Stewart and Kurt Busch over a second a lap.
If you can get a sniff, what we call a sniff, if you can see where the 31 car is back there, and you see the lead pack in front of him, that's Burton trying to catch back up to the back of Gilliland, you can catch them if you can sniff them.
Well, you saw that highlight of Ryan Newman from 2003. Dick, Newman's having a much better day today.
Oh, yes, he sure is, Mike. And one good measure of how good a race car is how much they have to change it during the running of a race. So far, Newman has made 2 pit stops. They have made no adjustments, just fuel and tires. That's it.
History of sorts was made today when 4 Toyotas rolled off the starting grid and into an Nextel Cup point race. There's Dave Blaney's number 22, just ahead of Jimmy Johnson, the Caterpillar Camry. For the first time since 1963, when Smokey Wood drove an MG on a quarter-mile at Winston-Salem, North Carolina, a foreign nameplate has competed in an Nextel Cup point race. There are 4 Toyotas in the field. There are 8 entered for the entire season of Nextel Cup racing. And try as we could, as the Bowman Gray archives could, as all our photographer friends could, we can't find a photo of Smokey Cook's MG, but we'd sure like to see one. Contact us at Fox Sports in Los Angeles if you can shed any light on the little number 32 MG. Here's our Toyota top performers at present.
And all those Camrys are built right here in the USA, up in Georgetown, Kentucky.
And that's why we say foreign nameplate, Darrell. We know that some of the Fords may be built in Canada or Chevys in Mexico, and it's become a global economy, but to distinguish nameplates, that's where we are.
Riding with Clint Boyer right now, the 07 car. He's sitting in the 6th position, one of the Richard Childress racing cars. You look right here, Darrell talked earlier, these guys are on fresh tires. If you notice, the brake is not an issue.
Under 12 out up there, just trying to stay in line.
But if you notice, pretty much all the way around this racetrack, you stay pretty much, as Darrell put it, wide open. You never lift the throttle. Now, we'll check this telemetry on later in this run. I bet you'll see where Clint Boyer is rolling out of the throttle. But right now, all 3 of the Richard Childress racing cars are up there in the top 8. They didn't qualify very good a week ago. I talked to Richard. He brought a little different engine combination here, and it has definitely showed up with a little more torque in the engine where they're racing and not for that fast qualifying lap.
There's where the Childress Chevrolets are at present. Harvick in 3rd. And Clint Boyer made a move up to 5th. He was 6th last time by the start-finish line. Harvick won the 300-mile preliminary, the Busch Series race here yesterday.
You know, Mike, one thing about the Tony Stewart's cars, chassis number 70, that's their 4th of July car. Now, normally a team will bring a car here for the 4th of July race, 100 degrees, track hot, slick, sliding around with a lot of downforce built into it. I just wonder, Larry, if they brought that car here because they knew they had a tire situation here that was a little different than they've had in the past, and they wanted a little bit more downforce built into it.
Well, there's no question the cars have been sliding around more this entire week. Goodyear did bring a little harder compound right side tire, slides a little more from the very get-go, so definitely more downforce pressure on the car can't hurt you.
Let's check downstairs with Jeff Hammond.
Mike, to add to Darrell and Larry's discussion, the one thing I'd like to point out too, guys, remember this test that was run down here by the 20 car was done without Tony Stewart behind the wheel. So if that's the case, Greg Zipadelli and that whole entire Joe Gibbs team did an excellent job of figuring this car out, because remember, Tony was out running the Chili Bowl.
And credit Mike McLaughlin, the Busch Series driver and former modified champ, who was behind the wheel for that test.
And that's not the first time that Mike has done the testing at Daytona or Talladega for these groups. But I think one thing you can also credit it to, they have not torn one of their restrictor plate race cars up in a long time. They're just able to fine tune and make it better.
Yeah, I don't know about no Chili Bowl. I'd want to run the Super Bowl if it's me.
He's doing a pretty good job of that right now.
Looks like he might be able to do both, huh?
Tony wants to win them all. He won an open wheel race in Fort Wayne. He won the Chili Bowl in Tulsa. And he's won 2 races here this week. Pretty good start. We're under the second caution of the day at Daytona. Problem on Kyle Petty's car, which we'll show you in a moment. Right now, pit stops are the order of the day. Here is Kyle. The damage to Kyle's car is to the right rear. Krista?
Kurt Busch needs his Miller Lite Dodge to be just a little bit looser. The way they're going to solve that is by going up just a bit on the track bar. Kurt saying he can get to Tony. He just can't get up there and stick. Steve?
Krista, Kyle Busch just told his crew, I ran over something going 200 miles an hour. Check the valence. Dick.
Tony Stewart has just stalled his car on pit road. There's an accident directly in front of him. The 7 car sideways in front of him as well. Stewart finally out of his pit. Matt.
Slight chassis adjustment for Kevin Harvick. One end of the racetrack, there's shade. He's a little loose on the turns 3 and 4. He's tight. They feel lucky, though, because Dale Earnhardt Jr. says that a part of the metal has hit his race car. He has asked his team to take a good look at it, as well as his spotter, Steve Meal. Back to Dick Berggren.
And there is a potential problem with Tony Stewart's car. He said that as they are going around under caution, under slow speeds, the oil pressure drops to 20 pounds. So he is going to change gear under those caution flag laps to try to keep the oil pressure up so he doesn't starve the engine of oil.
Well, let's go back to where all this started. And then we have the dust up on pit road as you see Tony Stewart. Kyle Petty, debris came off Kyle's car when he had a tire problem. Tony ran over some of it. And then this.
That's serious right there. That's that right front fender that he had problems with in the qualifying race. And the Bud shootout, I'm sorry, that he had to get fixed before he could run very well.
And it also blocked Tony Stewart in a 20 car. He almost was involved in that, but they were heads up enough to stop. And that's whose shoulders I put this whole thing on. That driver can't make that call buckled in that race car. It has to be on the shoulders of the crew chiefs and the spotters.
The big side headrests on these cars to protect the drivers, give them very little peripheral vision. Now you see what happened to Kyle Petty. A right rear tire let go and just shredded and sent itself through the sheet metal. Some of that ended up on the track.
Guys, we got a tire wrapped around the housing. You've got to get that off, okay?
That's Kyle's spotter. And after Kyle dropped that tire in those metal pieces, look at Tony Stewart, top of your screen, running right over it.
I'm surprised the spotter didn't give my heads up on that. Maybe he did and we don't hear it, but I'm surprised. There's debris back there. Man, that was serious.
Good thing is he got rid of those 4 tires and he came to pit road.
Second caution of the day in the Daytona 500 on Fox. Our pole sitter David Gilliland may have made a rookie mistake leaving his pit. It turned Robbie Gordon around and put a little damage on the right front of that Robert Yates Ford. Tony Stewart, meanwhile, was too fast exiting pit road when he came back in for further repair, so he restarts tail end of the longest line. That's not much of a penalty. That's about where he would have been after that second stop.
But once again, I want to go back to David Gilliland. I know we could call that a rookie mistake, but we had 40 cars on pit road at one time under caution. I just feel like there should be more on the shoulders of the crew chief, or especially the spotter, looking down on pit road to let him know, hey, a car coming in, if nothing else, just stop.
Kevin Harvick is the fourth different driver to lead today's Daytona 500.
But there's about 3 or 4 guys that are consistent, have been consistently at the front. Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch, Ryan Newman, they've been there all the time.
So Stewart and Gilliland will have to come from the back, along with Jimmy Johnson, who made another pit stop for the lead. Kurt Busch on the outside, trying to lead for the second time today. Little brother with a helping hand.
Now with help from brother, here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 8 car along with Jeff Burton in the 31. They're trying to help Kevin Harvick in the 29.
Speeds continue to build on the full lap of the restart. And look at the outside lane, full head of steam. Here comes Jeff Gordon with David Stremme and Denny Hamlin in the FedEx car.
That happened because they had the inside line slowed down from the bump drift.
Who's your daddy?
Who's your brother right now?
That was Denny Hamlin. And that was a big charge on the outside by Hamlin, Stremme, and Jeff Gordon.
Always had a theory. If you could hang around on the lead lap and get through the first couple of cautions, you had a chance.
Like a squadron of fighters, Kurt Busch has plenty of company, and they're not all friendlies.
Right now, 3 to 4 laps after that restart, we have 21 cars within about a second and a half of each other. A lot of them 2 and 3 wide.
And what these crew chiefs are telling guys that fell out of that first 2 or 4 or 5 car draft earlier, you got to keep up with this pack.
Denny Hamlin on the outside. Stremme still with him in the outside lane. Scott Riggs' car was smoking. He brought it to pit road, and they're sending Riggs to the garage. He'll be the second retiree. Dale Earnhardt Jr. out of the pack, down on the bottom and a little off the pace.
Looks like, I don't know, the car's certainly not handling like he wants to do. You see it kind of bobbling around there. I'm not sure if he's got a problem. He may be coming to pit road. Let's see what happens here.
No, but he continues to lose ground.
Man, look at his hands in there, guys. Look at those gloves. Left, right, left, right. That's the way I play golf.
I mean, he absolutely had his hands full.
You got me too loose there, brother. I reckon getting you to 3 on the bottom coming off the floor.
Matt?
That's exactly what Dale Jr. was telling Tony Jr. He said, we are just so loose. Tony Jr. under that caution was asking what the temperatures were because the car feels like it's got too much drag. They're looking to see if the temperatures come down as the day wears on. They can add a little more tape to that grill. Right now, Jr. trying to find a safe place just to ride.
Well, a little piece of tape is like a wake-up call to these race cars because it cuts that airflow down into the radiator, picks up speed.
And he looks like he has found a place because what he did, he fell to the back of this pack. So right now he'll be back in 20th position. 2 laps ago, he was up there in 4th in the 8 car.
Sometimes, Larry, and you know, with the fresh tires, low air pressure, things, cars don't drive real good for a lap or two.
And Darrell, I got to believe part of that, of course, as we've heard, what everybody's experiencing is the car's not turning. So it's almost like these teams and crew chiefs are working to continue to free the cars up. They could especially be too free or loose at the beginning of a run.
Kyle Busch made a move to the right there in the middle of the straightaway and almost collected Denny Hamlin. Kyle in the 5, older brother Kurt in the 2.
Well, these first 4 or 5 guys, you know, they've been out there riding by themselves, single file. All of a sudden, they're asking their spotter, where'd that guy come from?
A little bit of bump draft there on David Stremme in the Coors Light car. Krista, how about the 11?
Well, the 11 is on the move. He's been complaining about being a little bit of tight off turn 2. They loosened the car up on the last stop, but another thing that's helping him is a pin that he's wearing on his fire suit. A FedEx employee, a local driver, gave him the pin today. Denny was wearing it on his suit. Denny said he went to thank him, and the guy was gone. I guess it's kind of his Federal Express angel, if you will. Dick?
After that round of pit stops, everybody got back out on the racetrack. Tony Stewart and company decided that they needed to come back into the pits and take a look at the front valence. When Kyle Petty blew that tire, Stewart had run over some debris, so they pulled out the front valence and they've got that all squared away. But when the green flag dropped, instead of leading, Tony Stewart restarted 40th. He's up to 35th now.
But Dick, he had nothing to lose by coming back to pit road to make sure everything was good, because remember about the pit road speeding penalty, the penalty was he had to start at the tail end of the longest line, so nothing lost by coming back to pit road.
Yeah, the only thing you lose is you get back in that traffic, and boy, that can be a nightmare with a, you know, even with a good race car.
Kurt Busch is a past champion of this series. He grew up in Las Vegas, raced dwarf cars and then late models, stocked supermarket shelves before being tapped to move up to NASCAR. UPS delivers the chance to manage your own free fantasy auto racing league. Go to foxsports.com for more information.
And why is he fighting for the lead so hard? The kind of year he had last year, here he is on the big stage, and he's the star of the show right now.
Kurt Busch in front of Kyle, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Newman, David Stremme. We're closing in on halfway in the Great American Race.
You're watching the Daytona 500 on Fox, brought to you by Singular. Singular is the new AT&T.
Singular is the new AT&T as Jeff Burton races in 4th position behind Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch, and Ryan Newman.
Larry, is it just my imagination? We listen to these guys all the time. I don't hear anybody screaming like we used to do.
And you know, for the most part, you and I've talked about it all week. Everybody has been pretty happy with the way their race car's been driving down here for the most part. We need to update our Bud Pole sitter, David Gilliland, in a car that ran pretty much in the top 5, the top 10 most of the race. Had the accident on pit road, and right now he is a lonely man, about a half lap down to our leader, Kurt Busch. We don't like to see cautions, but I guarantee you David Gilliland would like to see some type of caution right now where Todd Parrott and that group can go to work on that car.
Based on what I'm seeing, he might get his wish.
We are 4 laps from halfway. 41 of the 43 starters still running on the lead lap. Kyle Petty went to the garage after that tire failure, and now Krista is with the second driver to fall from the race.
Yeah, Scott Riggs was actually just underneath the car, taking a look, working on it. Scott, what happened out there?
Not sure exactly. When we broke a transmission somehow. I know when I come in the first pit stop there, overshot my pits, put it in reverse and backed up. Didn't feel like it broke anything then, but obviously it could have, and finally started coming apart there. So, you know, it's my fault. You know, it's supposed to be overshooting your pits. Supposed to know better than that.
It's been a rough week already for the Evernham teams. A rough debut for the team engineers, filling in at team director Kevin Kidd and Scott Riggs.
They have had a rough week with Evernham Motorsports.
Another of the drivers whose team was penalized and whose crew chief is watching from home is Matt Kenseth. There's the yellow DeWalt Ford, highest running Ford in the race. Kenseth in 7th place right now, tacked on to David Stremme in the 40. And he's been consistently in the top 10 most of the day.
He's just been hanging out right there, lurking, just watching the laps wind through this race. And yeah, he's under the direction of Chip Boland, who is the lead engineer for the 17 team.
And Chip will be running that team next week when we run the Auto Club 500 on Fox from California, as Robbie Reiser sits out his suspension for unapproved aerodynamic adjustments during pole position qualifying.
You know, a guy that started this Daytona 500 at the back of the pack, and it didn't look like he was going to make a lot of moves after he got about mid-pack, but Jeff Gordon in the 24 car, he has made his way into the top 10 right now in the 10th position.
Yeah, Larry, looks like he's pretty good on new tires for, you know, maybe 10 or 12 laps. All of a sudden I noticed he's gotten to run the high line now, which tells me the car might be pushing and he's got to get up a little high with it.
2 laps to halfway. Kurt Busch trying to become the first Dodge to visit Daytona 500 victory lane in 5 years. Ward Burton won here in 2002, failed to make the race this year. Kurt's younger brother Kyle right in tow, and that worked pretty well at one of the races earlier in the week until Kurt decided to go his own way and hung little brother out to dry.
Yeah, and he ended up finishing, Kurt ended up finishing second to, at that point, the winner, Jeff Gordon, in that second dual race on Thursday. Yeah, we talked to Kyle a couple of days ago. He wasn't real pleased with older brother Kurt.
But he has a fast car, and fast cars will find friends. Tony Stewart's led a lot of laps today, 32 of them. Watch Stewart's number 20 and Montoya's 42.
And you can see Tony's car just, it's not turning. He's got the wheel turn, but there for a moment it would not turn until he used Mr. Montoya for a bank.
And Tony has not made that much ground up. He's only up to the 32nd position. He started back in 40th, but this is the first time during the day he's had to be back in traffic.
We are halfway in the Daytona 500 on Fox.
The Daytona 500 on Fox is sponsored by Chevy, the most wins in NASCAR history, an American revolution. By Radio Shack. By Pepsi. And by State Farm. Great service, great rates. Nobody takes care of you like State Farm.
Just past the halfway point, 103 laps. There is your top 5. 30 cars running within 6 seconds of each other as they snake down that 3,000-foot backstretch here in Daytona Beach. Let's get out to Jeff Hammond for today's State Farm Safety Report.
One of the new safety improvements for 2007 has to be the new fuel cell, 17 3/4 gallons. But it's the bladder inside, much tougher than years past. Plus, they've relocated the check valve itself. In years past, we used to have a check ball system. When the car got upside down, it would seal the fuel off with check balls, heavy steel balls. Now they've come up with this new check valve with a flapper system. As you can see, it does the same thing. When the car gets upside down, it seals the fuel off. But with this new system, it's much safer.
Thanks, Jeff. Safety a prime concern of NASCAR and of all of these teams.
And that 17 3/4 gallon fuel cell that we're running here, that's about 4.5 more gallons than the cars had here last year, which lets them go about 10 or 12 more laps on green flag conditions on fuel.
Excuse me there. David Stremme just about got turned around by Kevin Harvick.
He did.
Harvick had to back so far out of the gas. Jeff Green got to him, so did Martin Truex, so did Matt Kenseth, and so did Dale Jarrett. Now this will take your breath like it took mine.
This is scary right here. That is.
He had quite a bit of help, it looked like.
I guarantee you. It got Stremme's attention.
Hardly slowed Stremme's car, but it took all the momentum away from Harvick.
And everyone else there around them.
And up here.
Well, once again, we're at that point in a run. We're about a little over halfway through a run. These tires just seem to really give out after about 15 to 20 laps. The cars really start handling poorly. It's not the tires' fault. It's just the setup they have.
All drivers take a great deal of pride in their equipment and personal grooming. Darrell Waltrip had a chrome helmet at one time, and I believe Kevin Harvick has gone him one better. Matt?
Mike, from the unique and cool to know file, Kevin Harvick and the Sistine Chapel at the Vatican Rome have something in common. 500 years ago, Michelangelo used a variegated red-type gold leaf when he painted the ceiling. 500 years later, Jason Beam, Harvick's helmet painter, uses the same exact process. Instead, he doesn't use berries to make the red and the gold. He uses a certain kind of varnish and oil, but still a very pretty helmet, as Harvick has new colors all the way around for 2007.
That's a pretty helmet, man.
It is pretty.
That gold leaf, I love. Remember old Calhoun that ran at Indy? Number 98.
Parnelli, the Agajanian car that Parnelli Jones drove.
Had those gold leaf numbers on it.
Beautiful.
I love that thing. But you know one thing you better have on that helmet, because it's getting that time of the day, you better have a good shield, dark shield on your helmet, because the sun coming off of turn 4 is going to be a problem here before too long. I've been down here testing before, man. You just had to come off turn 4 and just kind of guess where you were, and that was by yourself.
Harvick has led 3 laps today. He's one of 4 drivers to lead this race. Kurt Busch has led 54 laps. That's the most of anyone. And it's only the second race at Daytona that Busch has led, even though he has 2 second-place finishes in the 500. He's only led once before today.
You know, one car that actually ended up with a pretty good starting spot, the 99 car for Roush Fenway, Carl Edwards. He's sitting right now in the 6th spot. I talked to Carl last night. And Darrell, you talked about Tony Stewart in the 20 car earlier that decided to come down here probably with more downforce. That's kind of the direction that Bob Osborne, his crew chief, and Carl Edwards came down here, and they have hurt for speed all during testing, all during qualifying and practice for qualifying. And Carl wasn't totally happy with the way the car drove in a big pack, but he felt like the car was going to handle well. I think especially Krista in the configurations in now, just up there kind of in single file.
Well, Larry, we are on the same page. I spoke with Jack Roush, and he said that Carl has a car that has more downforce than others. They think they were going to be in good shape with that. In good shape indeed. They're currently running in the top 10. You know, that's a much better outing than Carl had at this race last year when he only completed 78 laps and finished last. He finished 39th in July, so this is a much better race for Carl. He said he's more comfortable with drafting. He feels like he's at about 75% at where he needs to be. But guys, I think the secret is his aerodynamics. He had a goatee yesterday. He's clean shaven today. He is aerodynamically sound.
Chris, I tell you, you got to shave before a race. Got to look good, man. There's no excuse for not looking good. I tell you a guy that's not happy, though, that's that dude in the 24 car. When they went into third turn there just a second ago, lap before, he had cars going all around him.
Jeff Gordon in the 24.
With those guys.
Dale Jr. low, Casey Kane in the 9. Here comes the 22 of Blaney.
Well, they're not done yet. Here comes a whole bunch.
Yeah, right now he's all the way back to the 32nd position. Darrell, I think you nailed it. He runs good when they have fresh tires on that car, and then he starts backing up in a hurry, starts losing grip.
That's how he won that qualifying race. Come in, got some tires, won the race. But, you know, you can't do that in these long races.
Yesterday, Jeff Gordon really liked his car, but that was practice. Right now, he is 32nd. 90 laps to go in the Daytona 500 on Fox. The Busch brothers still out in front.
What I did on my vacation, I took my wife snowmobiling. No beaches here.
Katie and I went skiing in Telluride, Colorado.
Rode some snowmobiles on the ice, made a little racetrack on top of a little pond with some friends, and had a blast.
And also, Katie and I and Ross ended up going to the Super Bowl. So we got great tickets. We were sitting on the 50-yard line out in the rain for 4 hours, and had a great time.
No vacation here in Matt Kenseth. Ryan Newman running in the top 10, but Kurt Busch leading Kyle Busch. Some 86 laps to go in the Daytona 500. You're watching NASCAR on Fox. Nice to have you along with us. A quick Fox race break just to recap in case you tuned in a little bit late. Pole sitter David Gilliland led the first 18 laps. It was smooth sailing until the first caution came out in the 60 car. That's Boris Said. Slipping, sliding, but saving. Jeff Gordon, who started 42nd, one of those guys hitting the wall. That's Jimmy Johnson in front of him twice. Gordon hit the wall, had to work his way towards the front. Tony Stewart, who led 32 laps, trying to get out of the pits, but Gilliland creating some problems. Tony dropping back to 40th. hoping to make his way to the front of the pack. Chris Myers, Jeff Hammond, nice to have you along with us. As we look so far, what you've seen, some observations?
Well, from one thing has to be the 17 car, Matt Kenseth. Got a substitute crew chief right now, and he's doing a really good job, I think, between Chip Bowl and him, getting that car where it needs to be, presently running 8th.
Kenseth, one of those drivers without his crew chief from some of the punishments that were handed down. Let's check some of the other storylines as you look at Dale Earnhardt Jr., the drama of the DEI contract in the background.
Well, I think right now he's just trying to focus on his race car. He's been struggling with it as of late. You see right now, he tucked in behind Tony Stewart, and they're both of them trying to make their way back up through the field.
Michael Waltrip also and Toyota in their first Daytona 500.
He's struggling right now. He's a lap down, and they got a lot of work to do if they expect to be a factor before the end of the day.
Of the rookies from F1, a headline name internationally, Juan Pablo Montoya.
Car seems like it's still real tight. He's struggling with it. He's still back there in the mid-30s also, but at least so far he's kept it off the wall.
And how about this race with Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch, a couple of brothers who know each other well. Burton, Ward, and Jeff, the last brothers to finish 1-2 in a NASCAR race. That was 8 years ago.
Well, blood might be thicker than water, but you got to realize this is the Daytona 500, and I guarantee you right now when it comes down to that final lap, they're not going to care.
Well, let's rejoin Darrell, Larry, and Mike.
Change has come to second place, Denny Hamlin.
Good reason for
Kyle
it.
Busch.
Good reason for it, I tell you. If we can take a shot at that 5 car back there a few minutes ago, a few laps ago. I thought he was going to crash. He was really out of shape, Kyle Busch. Watch him come off turn 2 here. And this is what Daytona does to you. That's been a good car. It's been running down on the bottom of the track all day long. And the thing just took off. It didn't look like it on screen there, but he just took off, lost his momentum, and then had to fight for a position.
Yeah, he tried to put the block on Ryan Newman in the 12 car, but he's lucky he was able to keep it off that turn 2 wall.
Newman backslid to 6th. So right now Jeff Burton is 3rd. Kyle Busch continues to lose spots to the 1 of Martin Truex and the 12 of Newman.
I tell you what, Chris and Jeff, they were talking about Dale Earnhardt Jr., but how about Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s teammate, Martin Truex Jr. in that 1 car? He looks like the deeper we get into this run, which we're not that far from pit stop, he's made his way into the top 5. There you see in the Bass Pro Shop car, up to the 4th position behind Jeff Burton.
But that's how quickly the car will change on you here. In 1 lap, you go from a car that's sticking pretty good and feeling okay to out of control.
And how about the car on the bottom right there, Jeff Green in the 66 car? He started way back in the 31st position. It's almost like Harold Holley, his crew chief, they have that car good for long run. And also remember, Hendrick Power under the hood of that car.
So 2 Busch Series former champions, Truex and Green, coming toward the front. Meanwhile, Matt Kenseth, David Stremme running high on the track with less than optimum handling.
This is when you find out who can hold one wide open or not.
Ride with outside pole sitter Ricky Rudd. He's in 10th place right now. Nearing the end of a long green flag run. Pit stops coming up before too long. 119 laps complete in the Daytona 500 on Fox. What's big, bad, and victory red? Go to foxsports.com/Silverado for your chance to meet Dale Jr. and drive away in his all-new 2007 Chevy Silverado. Kurt Busch leads Denny Hamlin. Look at Tony Stewart right out that view. The Home Depot number 20 has climbed back up into the top 20. He's up to 15th place as Dale Jr. pulls alongside.
Yeah, as he was stuck back there in the back for a long time because everybody had pretty good tires. As the tires go off and the handling package starts to kick in, that's where he shines.
And how he got back there on our last caution on lap 79. It restarted on lap 83. Roughly about 40 laps ago, he was penalized for speeding, leaving pit road, tailing the longest line, restarted back in 40th position on lap 83.
Tony closing up on Mark Martin, who's the new driver of the Army Chevrolet this year. He'll share that ride with Regan Smith. First time in a couple of decades that Martin has been here in anything other than a Jack Roush Ford.
And Larry, what I'm seeing is once the handle goes off like Kyle Busch is right now, you better get him to pit road or he's going to wreck the car. I mean, here he is. He was running up there with his brother, running second. He's coming off a turn 2, and there he is in the fence again. And if you don't get him to pit road and get him some tires on there, he'll just drive it into the wall, and it won't be his fault.
And Darrell, we know those guys run the high line because it's where their car feels the best, but it doesn't give you much margin of error on the exit of turn 2 that has dealt so many cars a problem.
Well, the good thing about the high line, the transition out of the banking down onto the straightaway is much easier.
Pit stops have begun. Carl Edwards, the first of the lead lap cars, on pit road. Krista?
Yeah, the 99 was the first car to come in. They're just looking to loosen it up just a little bit. They're putting in the fuel, and Carl Edwards is going to come off the track. Expect the rest of the leaders to come down here in the next lap or so.
There's Joe Nemechek, who moves from the 01 to the 13, still for the same team. Last year MB2 Motorsports, and now it's Ginn Racing. Kyle Petty's back in the race, and so is Scott Riggs. So all 43 starters are on the racetrack. First of the leaders to pit will be Matt Kenseth and Kevin Harvick.
Matt Kenseth, he has that very first pit box coming in, and he's able to get his stop done and then just focus on leaving. Krista.
Yeah, Matt has been complaining that his car does not have any get up and go. He's really surprised that it's not handling better based on the kind of car they had, so they're just making some slight adjustments. Matt?
One concern the 29 team had was possible damage to that right front fender after contact with the 5. The team told them it looks good. Trying to free this 29 car up. That's Harvick's biggest complaint. It's just way too tight on exit.
Casey Kane completing his pit stop. His teammate Elliott Sadler also in.
Now you hear how he was revving the engine, Harvick in the 29 when he left pit road. That's the best thing you can do, because if they drop the jack and you kind of bog it down, you can break a transmission or a gear. That happened to him
in the dual race.
In the dual race.
Look at the entrance to pit road. It's feeding time at the zoo. There's a dozen cars scrambling to get in the pit lane. Here's Steve.
No adjustments to the 66, Mike. Jeff Green out of Owensboro, Kentucky, having a great run, was running in the 5th position, 4 tires of fuel. Matt.
Under the previous caution, the 48 team had Jimmy Johnson come twice to try to check the toe. Meanwhile, the 8 of Dale Earnhardt Jr. is in. They were trying to get this race car back a little more on the tight side. Jr. said he felt like he burned off that right rear tire. It was just so loose.
Pole sitter David Gilliland in, Yaley, Rudeman, Boris Said, Tony Raines, Montoya, Mike Wallace, and here come Jeff Burton, Martin Truex, Ricky Rudd, along with Kyle Busch, Tony Stewart, Greg Biffle, David Stremme, and Mark Martin to pit road. Kenny Schrader's in as well, along with Casey Mears and Bobby Labonte. Matt?
The guy that Jeff Burton liked running with under this past run was the one of Martin Truex. Burton says his car is good on the top down in 1 and 2, and the bottom down in 3 and 4. Slight air pressure adjustment. This 31 car seems to be really strong as the race progresses. You can see the wedge wrench in the back windows. They made that track bar adjustment.
4 tires and fuel for Stewart, for Stremme, for Mears and Labonte. These are green flag pit stops, and they come right around lap 126 and 7. Here's the leader, Kurt Busch, and Denny Hamlin, both on pit road together. Krista?
Yeah, let's start with Denny Hamlin. He said his car is just too tight on the exit of the turns. They're going to free it up a little bit. Meanwhile, our leader, Kurt Busch, some small adjustments. Left side air pressure and a wedge adjustment in the right rear. At first, they thought it was going to be a half round. Instead, 3/4 round. Just that much difference could be the difference in this race. Kurt Busch is down and away. Dick.
And here finally is Ryan Newman on pit road, and they are finally making a chassis adjustment in this car to try to make it handle a little bit better. It had picked up a bit of a push. Newman had started in the 16th position, worked his way all the way up to 4th before this round of pit stops.
Newman led a lap, Dick, and that will give him 5 bonus points in the Nextel Cup Championship. 1 penalty in this round of pit stops. Clint Boyer, a commitment line violation entering pit road. He'll have to do a pass-through penalty. That means he has to come down pit road at 55 miles an hour, the speed limit, go back out. And that's a tough thing to do when everybody else is going a $185.
And he actually hit the commitment cone and knocked it out of place. That's the reason that he's getting that penalty.
Maybe he thought he'd knock it out of the way and they wouldn't know where it was supposed to be, and he'd get away with the way thing. No.
100 theory, don't you?
28 laps complete in the Daytona 500 on Fox.
NASCAR on Fox from Daytona. Aerial coverage brought to you by Goodyear, reminding you to get there on triple tread technology with 3 unique tread zones for unsurpassed traction in any weather. 5 leaders, 6 lead changes, just a couple of cautions so far, and about 68 laps to go. Kurt Busch leading Ricky Rudd and Kyle Busch. Jeff Hammond, let's take a look at those most recent pit stops.
Yeah, we saw a lot of action as far as coming into pit road, and some of it was good and some of it was bad. A lot of guys trying to get on pit road. You can see the tire smoke on the 19 car, locks it up just before the entrance of pit road. And he wasn't the only one, Chris, that was doing that. Everybody was trying to get on pit road and make up some ground. Here comes the 41 car, Reed Sorensen. He's got right front locked up. But one of the big losers in this last round of pit stops was the 31 car of Jeff Burton. If you notice the jack man right there, Josh Yost, very slow, hopping around. He's had an ankle injury from a previous pit road incident. And if you'll notice, they had to take him away back to the medical center. He is really in a lot of pain right now. And that pit stop put Jeff way back in the back as far as he's back now on 17th position.
Let's check in with Matt Yoakum, who has more. Matt?
Chris, speaking with a trainer from Richard Childress Racing, apparently when Josh went around the car, he felt something pop. They have tentatively diagnosed it as a popped calf muscle. So they are taking him to the infield care center to check that out for more.
Kurt Busch at the front of the field, not the front of this draft. David Gilliland a lap down just ahead of him. Kurt is back in the lead after pit stops. Ricky Rudd, the outside pole sitter in the 88, has popped up to second. Kyle Busch in the 5 is third. Johnny Sauter, the yellow transportation number 70, is in the top 5 for the first time today. And the 11 of Denny Hamlin, 99 Carl Edwards, 17 Matt Kenseth. 7-car lead draft. Kevin Harvick is 8th. Tony Stewart up to 9th after a good stop. And David Stremme is 10th.
And Johnny Sauter, that 70 car, he's a teammate to Jeff Green. That was one of the cars that came to Daytona, a brand new race team essentially. They were not locked in the field. They cut a fast enough lap last Sunday to get in the field. Here they are in the top 5.
Well, this is a pretty fast field of cars. I want you to look at our average speed right now. It's 168. And the record for this race set back in 1980 was 177, and that was unrestricted. So these cats are getting it on, boys.
Johnny Sauter is one of 7 drivers whose fathers have raced in the Daytona 500. Let's go to his pit. Krista.
It is a great run for the yellow transportation Chevrolet. The handling on this car has really been good all day, but what makes this even more amazing is that back on lap 80, the car was jumping out of gear. They had to put a cord around the shifter. It was a long stop. They have made their way all the way back up through the pack, currently running a top 5. In fact, the car is so good, the 66's teammate is using the same setup. Dick?
How hard was Tony Stewart on the brakes as he tried to get on pit road? Look at this. He burned all the rubber off this tire, and the tire went right down flat. Good thing that thing had an interliner in it.
So we sat down and hammered it out.
And right now, that 20 car, Tony Stewart, remember, had that speeding penalty about 50 laps ago. He has now worked his way into the top 10 up in the 9th position. So he's working his way back.
And that can affect strategy at the end of this race. If you came down and say you wanted to just do a quick dump a can of gas in and go, you got to get on pit road without hurting that tire like that.
Now, Mike, you mentioned David Gilliland in the 38 car, right now a lap down. When they came to back to pit road to repair that fender from getting wrecked on pit road, he lost the draft. But Darrell and I were watching the scoring monitor. Out there by himself, he was only about a half a second slower than the guys in the pack. Now, by virtue of the green flag stop, he ended up with the pack. What David Gilliland needs, though, with only 63 laps to go, he needs a caution soon where he can work his way back up to the front if he wants a shot at winning this race.
137 laps complete. You ride with Kevin Harvick. He is the fastest car on the racetrack right now, in 8th place, lapping 0.4 of a second quicker than the leader.
The Daytona 500 on Fox is sponsored by Allstate, official insurance sponsor of NASCAR.
Kurt Busch still leading Ricky Rudd. Today's Allstate Good Hands driver. Watch number 40, the silver car, David Stremme. Had the hands and hung on. Allstate, official insurance sponsor of NASCAR. There is Stremme, currently running in 9th place behind Kurt Busch, Ricky Rudd, Kyle Busch, and Tony Stewart, who in another 3 laps is probably going to be leading this race. Stewart has climbed into the top 5. Overcome a pit road penalty, has worked his way back up through. A tight draft on Kyle Busch, threading the needle, and you have a look at Stewart's day.
Now
know, one of my favorite words for drivers is anticipation. You got to anticipate on the racetrack, and you got to anticipate things that are going to happen in the course of a race. We get a chance here. I noticed in one of our in-car shots there a minute ago, the sun is really playing havoc with these guys coming off of turn 4. That could have an effect on the pit stops that are coming up next time, because you're going to be blinded as you exit 4 trying to hit your mark to get slowed down to get in the pits. Look at that right there. And it's getting better all the time because the sun obviously is setting, but it's really a problem for some guys.
And Darrell, we're about 30 laps away from that next pit stop. We are down to the fact that if we stay green, this would be a 1 pit stop race to get to the end.
Let's have a look at the defending champion of the 500, 48, Jimmy Johnson. Turn 4.
See, there's a car just almost like in a 4-wheel slide, and it snapped loose with him.
You can just see that his hands, he's just kind of hanging onto that thing. He's not driving that car. He's just a passenger. It's going where it wants to. 3,400-pound horse monster right now.
Boy, a number of drivers have had up and down days. Ricky Rudd started outside pole, went all the way to the back. Had a great pit stop. Now he's in 4th place. And Matt Dale Earnhardt Jr. has been up and down the leaderboard today, currently 14th.
Right now he's sandwiched between Ryan Newman and Reed Sorensen and his spotter, Steve Meal, trying to not only help him run through the back, but also trying to help him get around here, seeing possibly his car may be better out front. They were going to try to work a deal with Newman, and then Junior just said simply, my car is not going to be good out front like it is right now. Let's just go ahead and ride. Meal also said, like you touched on, about the tear-off. He says the track is getting shaded. If you want to pull your tear-off, go ahead and do it now.
And on the shield, we put those dark tints on the shield for the sun, but then anticipating that it's going to get dark before the race ends.
Things gotten busy in this lead pack. Kyle Busch now tacked on to big brother Kurt.
Well, there's 2 races going on up front right there right now. The 07 and the 38 are trying to be the first car lap down for the lucky dog.
And of course, the 07 is Clint Boyer. He had that penalty on the last set of green flag stops where he hit the commit cone, had to come back to pit road. That's how he's a lap down.
Get the doors. Time for the Domino's hot lap. Let's see how our 5 top qualifiers ran on the designated lap. Tony Stewart's jumped out of that pack to tack on to the Busch brothers. Then Gilliland and Rudd in the bottom lane. Clint Boyer pulls them around the top side.
Well, what you're seeing now is this group right here more than likely thinks they're the ones that's going to decide who's going to win the Daytona 500. And they're really starting to feel each other out, I believe, and see who's got what.
And based on what I've seen on pit road, it could be those groups down there. If we indeed go green for another 25 laps, that could actually decide the Daytona 500.
Yeah, this next stop has to be mistake-free if we're going to win this race. Getting in and in the pit.
I think Ricky Rudd is probably going to be quickest of our Domino's hot lap cars. We'll see. Who's the fastest of the top 5 qualifiers? Lap 147. Jeff Gordon was the quickest of those cars on that lap with a 48.42. So there he is, even though he's back in 29th place. Track may finally be coming to the setup underneath his Chevrolet.
Didn't he tell us we look at these monitors too much, particularly in practice? Because he can get a fast lap by being back there in behind the right cars.
Second place side by side. Congratulations to Jeff Gordon, fastest driver of today's Domino's hot lap. Congratulations to all the fans who selected Jeff today. You're entered to win a trip to 2 for 2 to the August race in Michigan.
Boys, don't look now, but Tony Stewart, he has friends behind him. It's taken him almost 60 laps, but he's up there battling Kurt Busch in the 2 for the lead. He was 40th 60 laps ago in that 20 car, and he's going to get the lead going down the backstretch.
If Truex can get up there and give him a little help. But here comes his, well, I don't know. I thought Kyle would jump down there and help Kurt, but he didn't. So far, he hadn't.
That's at least twice that we've seen Kyle Busch in the 5 car jump up there with Chevrolets and leave his brother. But now he looks like he's coming back to the bottom as Johnny Sauter in the 70 moves into the picture.
Oh, you can change your mind several times going down into a corner depending on where they are on the track.
Who'll lead this lap? It'll be Busch on the inside, but Stewart appears to have more help.
Getting tight, boys. Things are tightening up. You know what, Larry? The sun's going down. I know it's not hot, but the sun's going down. I believe the grip might be picking up just a little bit.
And how about that Army car, that 01 car, Mark Martin? He's worked his way up in the thick of this pack, sitting there running in 7th position with 50 laps to go.
And he had been in the wall. I saw the right side of that car on that last around the pit stops. Mark had been in the wall pretty good, but looks like it didn't hurt the Hamlin any.
Tony Stewart, for the first time in the last 70 laps, is going to lead the Daytona 500 for the second time today. Anyone surprised?
How we doing here, Hall?
Not really. I'd say you're doing pretty good there, Smoke.
Two-time series champion Tony Stewart back out front in the
Look
Daytona
for me in the
500.
final laps.
Uh-oh, there goes Tony. Oh, my goodness.
Crash in turn 4.
Man,
and there in the midst of it sits Tony Stewart and Kurt Busch, the 2 leaders.
I believe, I'm not sure, but I believe Tony got a little loose all at once.
Kurt Busch, the 2, will go straight to the garage, Jerry.
I'm worried about you. I ain't worried about that car.
That was Greg Zipadelli, Stewart's crew chief. And the strongest Chevy and the strongest Dodge in Daytona are wrecked.
Let's watch it. I don't know if Kurt got into the back of Tony or not. Let's wait till we get around here and see. Tony's car just Tony hit the apron. He got down on the apron. He got a little bit loose. Kurt was all over the back of him, and there he goes.
Tony's dropped the window net on his car. That's a signal to safety workers that he is okay. Watch the yellow line.
Yeah, watch the left front tire. Gets it on the apron just a little bit. You see the car wiggle, and he gets loose. He's got to probably lift out of the throttle a tad. And here comes Kurt. Cannot get off of him. They make contact.
And then once Tony gets sideways, nowhere for Kurt Busch and the 2 to go.
What a shame.
You're doing 185 miles an hour, Darrell. The car in front of you suddenly loses several miles an hour of momentum. Was there anything Kurt Busch could do to avoid Stewart?
No, you could see he was trying to get down. He was trying to get underneath Tony to get away from him. It wasn't possible. He did everything he could do.
And remember, they had fresh tires. This is a racetrack where you run wide open on the mat. Just listen.
Just that little, you hear the throttle, and that's all it takes.
Tony Stewart's 9th try to win the Daytona 500 will come up short. We can show you the speed of Kurt Busch's car going through here. Sorry, we don't have that telemetry on the 20. But we'll give you an idea of how Kurt Busch tries to scrub off speed as Stewart loses his momentum. Busch is in the number 2.
These guys are quick, but they just can't. This happens too quick. See the car wiggle ever so slightly. Tony, you heard the throttle on the other replay we had. Tony had to work the throttle, and Kurt's just closing at probably another 5 or 8 miles an hour.
Boy, and how close it was for Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Carl Edwards, Johnny Sauter, all those guys.
Kurt Busch may have been on his way to winning the Daytona 500, and now his Penske team will have to try to rebuild that car and get him out to cycle around the track to pile up as many Nextel Cup points as he can.
Kurt had a car here last year that could have won the race and had a very similar situation, taken out in a wreck.
He's finished second here twice in the 500. never won it. And with all the other 41 cars still running, this could be a huge hit in the points right off the bat for both former champions, Tony Stewart and Kurt Busch.
And the timing of this caution, we've been talking, Jeff Hamm and myself, this entire race, these teams can run about 45 to 48 laps on fuel. When they come back around, there will be 45 laps to go in the Daytona 500, so this could be a pretty critical pit stop. You can't afford a mistake now for sure, guys, on pit road.
Kurt Busch involved in the crash. His younger brother Kyle inherits the lead. Outside pole sitter Ricky Rudd, who is currently in 8th place.
And obviously got a very good race car.
It is Rudd's 29th attempt to win the Daytona 500. Second in the over category only to retired driver Dave Marcus.
And when he made that first start in 1977, Kyle Busch was not even born.
Chris Devoda is with Kurt Busch.
Yeah, the window net is down, but obviously Kurt Busch very disappointed. Let's see if we can get a word with him. Kurt, I know the disappointment has just got to be huge. You were running up front. Can you give us any indication to how the melee happened?
I couldn't hear you, but we had a good run on the 20 car, bumped into him a little bit, and we both got taken out of the Daytona 500 off of my mistake. So I hate it for my guys. They work real hard at putting together good cars, and our sponsor Miller Lite and everybody that's involved with the team. We're real poised for a good run towards the end here, and we just got bottled up, a bunch of guys sliding around, and I made the first mistake. So I apologize to the 20 car. I know it doesn't help any. He's been a great friend at all these restrictor plate races. So we'll dig out of this, and we'll be back next week in California.
All right, Kurt Busch talks about being bottled up right now, bottled up in his car with tons of emotion.
Yeah, and I believe he's just been a little too hard on himself. He has not seen the replays. I believe when he does, he won't feel quite the responsibility, even though I'm sure he wishes he could have gotten off of Tony and not gotten into him. But I think he's beating himself up a little too much right now.
Let's look from the Goodyear blimp, and I think you'll see, as Darrell pointed out, that Kurt Busch likely had no opportunity to avoid Tony Stewart.
When you see Tony's car wiggle right there, that's just all it took. It takes that little bit of momentum away. Here comes Kurt running wide open with his brother Kyle pushing, and he can't turn under him quick enough to get off of him.
If Kurt Busch could have slammed on the brake and scrubbed off enough speed, Kyle's into the back of him.
Yeah, there's no, I promise you, there's nothing you can do except you try to be evasive as you can, miss that car, but you see he clipped him just a little bit.
Yeah, once again, this is not a racetrack where the drivers roll out of the throttle, get in the corner, pick the gas up. You're wide open on the mat all the way around this racetrack.
Well, remember, we said it's a momentum racetrack. You never really lose your momentum. You can back off the throttle and hit the brake. You're still going to be doing 170 mile an hour.
Two of the biggest favorites to win this race are in the garage. Two-time Nextel Cup champ Tony Stewart and past champion Kurt Busch. Everyone else awaits their cars on pit road, which will be open this time by with 44 laps to go.
You know, you used to come down here and watch Dale Earnhardt win everything under the sun. Sunday would come, and he would always have something happen that kept him from winning the Daytona 500. I was thinking that very same thing when Tony was leading.
Steve Burns with the leader.
Hey, Mike, Alan Gustafson told Kyle Busch, just be very smooth, hit your marks, which he does. They're going to raise the track bar just a little bit on that 5 car, and Kyle wants windshield attention. He said he ran through some fluid. Dick.
Mark Martin in the pits, going to take 4 tires on that car. He's one of the veterans, 22 starts. He has never won the Daytona 500, but has a good car today, Matt.
DEI picker coach Walt Smith calling for a mistake-free stop. Don't throw it away now. Great stop by the one guys. They are already away. They wanted just to free it up slightly, not over-adjust for what could be their last stop of the day.
And we'll get more reports, but the best I could tell, it looks like for the most part, most all the leaders went with the 4-tire strategy, again, considering there's 44 laps left in this Daytona 500.
And there are still 38 cars on the lead lap as you see the results of the race off pit road. Truex, Mark Martin, Kyle Busch, and there may have been some contact involving Carl Edwards and Johnny Sauter, the 99 and 70.
Well, as they say, this changes everything.
We say that often, don't we?
We do.
Yep. Sauter was pulling out, trying to avoid J.J. Yaley's pit crew members.
Probably not going to hurt the 99 car. I could question the damage on that fender, though, on the 70.
The Daytona 500 on Fox is sponsored by the auto parts experts at AutoZone. Get in the zone. AutoZone. By Nextel, only from Sprint, helping NASCAR Nextel Cup fans get more done. By Pizza Hut, want more cheesy bites? Get America's favorite pizza. And by Toyota, moving forward. Two laps to go. Martin Truex the leader. 4 Chevys. Mark Martin, Kyle Busch, Johnny Sauter, and Matt Kenseth. Pacing the 49th Daytona 500 is the 2007 Chevy Corvette Z06 with 505 horsepower and a top speed of 198 miles per hour. Chevy is the official pace car of NASCAR. Tony Stewart, 2-time NASCAR champ. 11 wins at this track, but no Daytona 500. Leading for the first time on lap 49. Trapped in the pits, a Gilliland miscue, a speeding penalty. He restarts 40th, trying to get out on pit road. Then he retakes the lead from Kurt Busch, leading a total of 35 laps until with under 50 laps to go in the Daytona 500. Down on the apron, Kurt Busch can't pull back. Tony Stewart and Kurt Busch both out of the race as we rejoin Darrell, Larry, and Mike.
Both drivers are okay as we get ready for the restart. Martin Truex Jr., the past Busch Series champion, has never finished better than 15th at Daytona in an Nextel Cup car. But here he is driving for Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, leading the field down for the restart with 41 to go.
And that team really came on strong at the end of last year. Martin Truex with Bono, Mannion, crew chief. They were really finished up strong last year.
Finished second at the final race at Homestead Miami Speedway, but now we've got 41 laps to go in the Daytona 500. One car you'll see missing at the front of the pack, 99 Carl Edwards, came in running third. They had a penalty on pit road for rolling a tire across pit road. He had to go the tail end of the longest line. Hard fight for that 99 car now.
Well, he's got some company back there because Gilliland got back on the lead lap. We know he's fast. Maybe they can get hooked up and work their way back to the front.
Inside line, big head of steam, Matt Kenseth leading them down the backstretch. Martin down to block. Kenseth goes high.
I mean, Kenseth went to the bottom and all the way back to the top in that 17 car.
I think you're going to see some pretty aggressive driving from here on out. That give and take and that I'll let you in stuff, it's over.
And I'd say a lot of the friendships are over too. You work with who can help you the most.
Mark Martin, second place, his 23rd try to win the Daytona 500. He's in that 01 Army car ahead of Ryan Newman and trailing Martin Truex.
Boy, Kyle Busch up on the outside there. That looked treacherous.
As they come off turn 2, Tony Stewart is out of his car speaking with Chris Devoda.
We've caught up with Tony Stewart coming out of the Care Center. Tony, we just spoke with Kurt Busch. He adamantly apologized. He said it was his fault. What's your take on the incident?
I don't know. I was just in the center of the corner and all of a sudden it took off on me. So, you know, I haven't seen it, so I don't know what happened. But pretty impressive to go to the back and get all the way back up to the front like that. I was really happy. That Home Depot Monte Carlo was awesome today. I mean, we fought back. We kind of were in a bad position that one pit stop where we had Robbie Gordon coming in, toward the tail of the field. We were ready to go, and I stalled it trying to get out ahead of him, and then him and the 38 get together, and they're wrecked, and it just got us to the back, and then I just wasn't paying attention to my pit lane speed, and it was my fault and got us behind. So just got us to the back, but I was proud of, I thought it would be a little quicker than it was getting to the front, but it took a lot longer than I anticipated. The cars are just so tight back there, and it's so hard to drive back there if you're in bad air, but just proud of these guys. I mean, they never got worked up. I never got worked up. We drove the way back to the front.
Tony, you're out of the 500, but you're able to smile. Is that going to be a testament to the confidence you have in your season?
I'm excited. I mean, these guys have done such a good job all week. I mean, our Chevy was fast. I mean, every time we were on the track, it's been fast. So, it just wasn't meant to be today. So, just real proud of everybody at Home Depot, all 350,000 associates that were rooting for us today. We'll come back next year and get one.
Sometimes the greatest drivers seems like the greatest race eludes them. And this is another one of those times for Tony. I feel sorry for him. It's a great effort they put forth, he and the whole team.
Stewart was the car to beat today, whether in the front or in the back of the field.
See teammates Jeff Gordon in the 24 car, Casey Mears in the 25. Now Matt Kenseth in the 17 getting help from his teammate Jamie McMurray in the 26. But Mark Martin, who was Matt Kenseth's teammate for a number of years, moved up in front of Matt. Martin Truex Jr. is driving out the back window as much as he's driving out the windshield right now in the 1.
Oh, one's got a push in the 17.
Here comes everybody. Jeff Hammond, 37 laps to go, and the vise is tightening.
Yeah, the door is wide open right now, and Mike, what I'm seeing from down here, can you imagine if Martin Truex Jr. could drive that one car into victory lane? He would be the 3rd DEI car to win the Daytona 500. And oh, by the way, the 17 car, Matt Kenseth, back here in 3rd place. Maybe history's going to repeat itself with a substitute crew chief winning the Daytona 500 for the 2nd year in a row. Guys?
Great point, Jeff. You're absolutely right, especially on the substitute crew chief. Of course, Robbie Reiser, Matt Kenseth's crew chief, suspended for 4 weeks. Chip Boland standing in place, and right now he's sitting up there in the 3rd position. 36 laps to go.
And conditions are ideal now. The wind has died down. The track has picked up some grip. We're going to see this kind of racing to the finish.
This looks like the Budweiser Shootout or Thursday's Gatorade Duel. 3 wide. Way deep through this field.
And the thing about it is, once those fast 2 front cars went out, Tony and Kurt, it opened the door for so many people to get up here and have a shot at winning this thing.
Top 20 cars within 1 second as you watch from the Goodyear blimp.
Isn't that incredible? I mean, here we are. We're almost, we're almost to the end of the race, 500 miles, and we got these guys. You can throw a blanket over them. They might need one as chilly as it's been.
In your mirror, both lanes are coming back.
Boy, she got a hold of pretty wheel here now.
Both lines are coming back to you. 0112 on the bottom, 1726 up top.
That is Truex's spotter. He's the leader on the outside. Here comes Mark Martin.
He opened the door on the bottom side. Right now on fresh tires, it just looks like that bottom line is what's prevailing.
One ahead of that group behind you. You don't have a lot of help.
Oh,
the 01's on the bottom by
I don't know
himself.
about y'all, but I hear thunder.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm probably going to see lightning here before long.
Here you go. Now you're clear either lane.
You know, even though Mark Martin drove for Roush Racing in that 6 car for 19 years, he felt like even driving part-time, this is going to be his best shot in winning a Daytona 500.
Well, you would. I mean, you're hearing a Hendrick car, basically. I mean, the guys that work on it at the 01 team certainly prepare it, but you know you've got what it takes to win this race. It's been done with Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon.
Speaking of whom, look who's coming up the middle. Jeff Burton in 31 and Jeff Gordon in the 24 with him. They're carving out their own lane right in the middle, and they're making progress.
Boy, it's getting tight back there. 3 wide will not work. Here comes Gordon, making it 4 wide down the back straightaway.
And they're starting to just bounce off each other. You can only get away with that until the tires start to give up.
And that's when Gordon's car's been so good on fresh tires, the 24.
And right now you're driving for all you're worth. You know you can't lift. You know you can't back out and let them get away because this is the race right here. You got to keep up. This is when I want to hear my crew chief saying, you can do it, you can do it.
Side, you've got a big help with the 26 pushing. The 01 and 12 are coming back to you. You'll feel it. Big push from behind, still outside.
Well, you know what I love? This is how we started today, and this is how we're going to end today.
Oh, yeah.
Question, can you hold your breath for 33 more laps?
And you know what? Out of the top 20 right now, we only have 2 previous Daytona 500 winners, Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt Jr. up there.
I'm sure Jamie McMurray is saying, hey, this is cool.
You bet. He's in the 26th, right behind.
Figure out where you're good. We'll save that for later. Still outside.
McMurray right behind his Roush Fenway Racing teammate, Matt Kenseth. Ford Racing celebrating Ford's long history of making bold moves on the racetrack. dating back to 1901 when Henry Ford competed in his one and only auto race, beat Alexander Winton driving a car called Sweepstakes, and that got Henry the backing he needed to start the Ford Motor Company.
Johnny Sauter in that 70 car took it to the high side, making it 3 wide. I mean, look at this gaggle of cars back there coming to 31 laps to go.
Just when you think that it's all settled down, it's going to be between a couple of guys, guess what? It's between about 36 guys.
You know what's going to be the hardest phone call to make tomorrow morning? Hey, we finished a second behind the leader. Oh, yeah, we were 21st. The Fords have ganged up on Martin Truex, and now it is Kenseth and McMurray out in front, but only by a car length with 31 laps to go. Matt Kenseth had drafting help from Jamie McMurray, still does in the outside lane, then Kyle Busch. On the inside, Martin Truex and Mark Martin, then Carl Edwards. Casey Mears moves up into the top 10 for the first time today, along with Reed Sorensen, Ryan Newman, and Johnny Sauter. It is still anybody's race with 27 laps to go.
And look at that 99 car, Carl Edwards to the inside. Remember, he had to restart after the last caution at the tail end of this field. There he is up in the top 5.
Yeah, he shuffled the Mark out, got a nose under him. Mark gave him some room, and there they go.
There's Jimmy Johnson, the 48 car. Here we go.
Tony Raines with him, Denny Hamlin.
That was inevitable. It had to happen. You can't be this late in the race, be bunched up like that, and not have trouble. Holy cow, did you see that shot? Snapped his head around. Thank goodness for those big headrests.
Caution is out for the 3rd time today. David Rudiman crashed.
There's several more back there.
And this all started somewhere back about the 15th place.
They're breaking down.
Jimmy Johnson, last year's winner and the series champion, crashed.
He's okay. He's trying to get it cranked up and hopefully get it back to the pits. That's David. That's Rudiman there. In the 00, there's Tony Raines in the DLP car, 96.
Jeff Green in the Best Buy Chevy. All the worse for wear.
See if we can determine how this all started. We knew it was going to happen sooner or later.
Watch 66 in the middle. Nope, it's in front of him. It's Johnson.
48 car just lost it.
Gosh.
Right. I mean, right in the middle of the straightaway.
I mean, it's almost like a tire went down or something, because a car, to make a move like that, either something broke, a tire went down, because the car didn't move like that on the straightaway. 11 car going by there, Denny Hamlin. He got damage, as we saw. Oh, there he starts way back up in there. He gets loose coming off. That's got to be a flat tire. Man, he hit that outside wall a ton.
And just nowhere for all these guys to go. There you see, they just started stacking up on the inside.
And where Johnson hit the wall was after where the safer barrier in turn 2 ends. So he hit the concrete and bounced right out into traffic. Let's ride with Jimmy.
Go 3 wide. Go low, go low. You're right in the middle of it.
Oh,
nowhere for these guys to go.
That makes...
Excuse me, that's David Rudiman. Here's David Rudiman.
Go.
Wish I could.
Yep. First replay was from Tony Raines' car. Now let's ride in the low Chevy.
No, I don't think a tire went down. I never heard anything. I think he just got loose.
Crash, guys. We got big loose. Got up the wall. You all right, Jimmy?
Leaders on pit road. Krista.
Matt Kenseth is in, and he has put the decision on Chip Boland, his crew chief for this race, his engineer who's been with him forever. They're making an air pressure adjustment, a pound of air. They did not want to waste any time on pit road. Matt is away.
4 tires for Jamie McMurray. No other adjustments on the number 26. He's away, Matt.
Truex in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, the 2-time champion, says his car is spot on for the 2-time Busch Series champion. His teammate Dale Earnhardt Jr. says his car is loose in the middle lane, but really good overall.
What did Mark Martin do? Because he picked up 6 positions on pit road, as did Reed Sorensen, Johnny Sauter.
I think who this really helps, Mike, is the 24 car, because he's pretty good on new tires for about 25 laps.
Well, I'm pretty sure the 01 car probably just went with 2 right side tires because he only had about 12 laps on those last tires.
Oh. Jamie McMurray gets in the back of one of Mike Wallace's crew, exiting pit road.
Goodness.
We'll update that story when we come back.
The Daytona 500 on Fox is sponsored by Chevy, the most wins in NASCAR history on American Revolution. By Goodyear, innovative technology to help you get there. By Degree Men, more power than you need, one day you'll need it. And by Subway Restaurants. Subway, eat fresh.
Under caution as you ride with the Chevrolet of Jimmy Johnson on the rollback truck back to the garage area and out of this race. Now watch Jimmy Johnson. Here he is at the top of your screen as this unfolds from the Goodyear blimp.
Car's been pushing all day. I think they just freed it up too much is what happened. He just gets bad loose right there. He tries to keep up with it. Try not to lose any positions. Try not to get out of it, but drives it right in the wall, and then here comes the field. I think you can probably hear him pedaling it if we can get some sound.
Jeff Green has gone to the garage with crash damage. Ryan Newman has pulled into the garage area with possibly engine trouble. And Mark Martin, trying to win the Daytona 500 for the 23rd try, is out in front. What's our Nextel getting it done call of the race? We'll look at those front 4 cars right now. Mark Martin, Carl Edwards, Reed Sorensen, Johnny Sauter.
We've got about 12 laps on their tires, on their left side tires. And like Darrell and I were talking at break, you've got 20 hard laps of racing to go where you're going to have to really maneuver that race car.
So the call to take just 2 tires might be our Nextel getting it done call of the race. Nextel helps NASCAR and NASCAR fans get things done.
And it could be the call to take 4 too.
We'll know here in about 20 laps.
Let's get going. Wait, see. I want to find out.
31 cars are on the lead lap. There's Montoya in the 42 in his Nextel Cup debut, 1 lap down in 32nd. Martin, Edwards, Sorensen, and Sauter got 2 tires. Dale Earnhardt Jr., Greg Biffle, Matt Kenseth, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex, and they're on back. Got 4 tires. Let's take this restart from our DLP Ultimate Picture Cam above the start-finish line at Daytona International Speedway. Night falls. 21 laps to race.
20 laps ago, Carl Edwards at 99 restarted at the tail end of the field. Now he's restarting up in second.
The guys, the possibilities of who could win this race keep changing every 5 laps now.
Watch the speed build on Mark Martin.
Reed Sorensen sitting there in 3rd, and Johnny Sauter, and look out, old Red's coming on the outside.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. in that 8 car, he's getting help up there.
And he's got friends, because everybody will go with him.
But he left his friends. We went back to the bottom. He was getting a push from Greg Biffle in the 16, still getting it.
Well, what'd we say at the start of the day? That yellow line is your best friend.
You still have the help. Clear high.
Ooh, Carl, be careful. I know you don't want to get past, but you got yourself in a bind, dude.
Now you see Kyle Busch in the 5 car. He's going to push on Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 8 car.
And Carl, because of that move he made, he's trying not to lose a spot. He loses a whole bunch of spots. One bad move can cost you this race.
Mark Martin raced Fords for Jack Roush for 19 seasons, 674 consecutive races. Now he's behind the wheel of a Bobby Ginn Chevrolet with Hendrick Power, and he's in front of the Daytona 500 with 20 laps to go.
And he's got to be sitting there all smiles, loving it.
What's going to be interesting now with about 19 laps to go, we've seen Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 8 car a lot like Jeff Gordon. He's good on fresh tires. Can he be good on into a run on tires?
Well, there's his buddy right there. I tell you, that 1 car was good over that last long run we had. He and Dale Jr. might be able to get hooked up and do something. We know the 5's good. He's been in a top 5 all day long. So we've got some players here that are good, but they're being kind of held up right now by some guys we haven't seen up there all day.
But Darryl,
Greg Biffle, for Pete's sake.
We have seen the 16 car. We've seen this all day long where these guys are good on the bottom on fresh tires.
Next Sunday, NASCAR on Fox at California Speedway, the Auto Club 500. These same drivers, whole different set of thrills.
Oh, yeah.
Not only are they thinking about the big trophy that you get to win this race, but you get the big check, too. About $1.5 million bucks. That'll make you hold her wide open when you don't want to.
The defending champion of the Daytona 500 is in the garage with Krista.
Jimmy Johnson, it's been an up and down week for you, and it ends on a down note. You are not going to be able to defend your Daytona 500 title.
Yeah, that's definitely disappointing. These guys work so hard at Hendrick Motorsports. Can't thank them enough for the race cars that they give me in the sport from Lowe's. Unfortunately, we crashed today, got loose in the center, and thought I had it saved, and things snapped back to the right and into the fence. So, disappointing day, definitely.
Talk about the hit, too. You're okay?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely was a hard hit, but everything did its job inside the car, and I'm fine. Thank you.
There's his teammate Casey Mears in that 25 car. He's in the middle with no help, just continues to lose spots all the way down the back straightaway.
Last run of green flag racing, we were 3 wide all the way around. So far in this run until just now, we've been double wide.
I think you got 2 guys there that don't mind, or 3 guys actually. There's 2 guys right behind Mark Martin that have the most respect in the world for him. Greg Biffle in the 16, Matt Kenseth in the 17. Mark was their mentor at Roush's, and here they are following him possibly to his first Daytona 500 victory.
And then that 3 wide pack, the middle row, Kyle Busch in that 5. He's made some bold, daring moves today, but he keeps finding a way to get to the front. Let's go down to Dick Berggren on our race leader, Mark Martin.
Did you see that?
Well, 48-year-old Mark Martin has won a lot of stuff here at Daytona. He's won here in sports cars. He's won here in IROC. He's won in NASCAR Craftsman truck racing. And he won the 1999 shootout. But he has never won the Nextel Cup point race. He is out front for the Daytona 500. This would be the biggest win of his career. No doubt about it, Mike.
Third in 1995 was Mark Martin's best Daytona 500 finish.
Mark has never really liked Daytona. I mean, he'll tell you right quick, it's not my kind of racing. But I bet he's liking it right now. I bet he's warming up to it. What do you think?
And right now, while that group back there, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Elliott Sadler, and the other 30 cars behind them are 2 and 3 wide, the front 4 is pulling away just a little bit because they were in single file with about 15.5 laps to go.
Well, when this next caution occurs, that's good news for Mark Martin, because that just had many less laps on his tires.
We're going to leave you for about 2.5 laps and then come in and race all the way to the checker. You're watching the Daytona 500 in high definition on Fox. 4th caution of the day in the Daytona 500. Check that, 5th caution of the afternoon. Our computer scoring a little latent there. And from high above.
It's what you call a wad right there. They get all wadded up, and the 25 and the 99, and 99 gets in the fence. 26 was involved. Jamie McMurray in the 26, Carl Edwards in the 99. See Joe Nemechek in the 13, bumps into Carl, but in the meantime,
this was not quite what brought out the caution. Watch the yellow cat car.
He gets forced into the pit lane. Here's what I don't think he realizes. He's got a flat right front tire.
150 miles an hour. Blaney is trying to scrub off speed.
And just nowhere for Ken Schrader, the 21 car, to go.
Or Boyer in the 07 car. I don't think he realized he had a flat tire, and when he got to the end of pit road, he couldn't turn.
Came right out in front of Ken Schrader. Clint Boyer also damaged, and Schrader's Little Debbie's car is a wreck. Remember, Schrader and Buddy Baker were the 2 drivers to win on Sunday and then on Thursday and have a shot to win the 500. Schrader will drive most of this season. Tough way to start. Look at this great camera work, folks.
Yeah. Jamie McMurray forces Casey Mears in the 25 into Carl Edwards outside there on the 99. They get in the wall, really kind of tore up some cars, but no real damage done until the 22 gets forced on the pit road.
Yeah, Mike Wallace got into the 22 Blaney, who took evasive action.
Come on, come on. Stay in there.
Riding
Come
Clint
on.
Boyer.
Come on. Come on. Back off there, Rick.
Our DirecTV cam giving you those pictures from Clint Boyer's car.
Darrell, I'm like something you said earlier before this caution. I think this is good for Mark Martin right here. Remember, he only has those 2 fresh tires. This gives a chance for all 4 tires to cool down just a little bit.
And the thing that I think is really good for Mark Martin is the 2 guys behind him. I know they want to win. I know Biffle and Kenseth both want to win the Daytona 500, but I believe they would want Mark to win it more.
I would not disagree with that.
23 years of trying for Mark Martin. You see Montoya moving on past. He gets the free pass. He'll be back on the lead lap when we restart. Dick Berggren.
Well, talk about some eavesdropping. Mark Martin's crew is listening to other team radios. Crew chief Ryan Pemberton is radioing to Mark what he thinks the competition behind him is going to do based on those radio conversations and his best guess of how they're liable to try to gang up and beat Mark Martin to win the Daytona 500.
Mike, Larry, I tell you, you look behind Mark, got 2 of his buddies. You got Truex back there, who's got a good race car, but then you got Elliott Sadler. He's got to be thrilled to be running 5th. You got a couple other guys back there. Jamie McMurray, you see some of these guys be happy to finish right where they are.
Still 13 laps to go and anything can happen. Earlier, one of Mike Wallace's crew members got run over by a car exiting the pits. Steve Burns can update us.
Yeah, Mike, what we know is Jeremy Gator is the rear tire changer on the 09. Jamie McMurray did get into his ankle, as you mentioned. He was alert, awake. The EMT folks were working with him. They put ice on his ankle and wrapped it up, and he went to the infield care center. Again, his name is Jeremy Gator, but he was alert and looked to be in very good spirits.
Well, Steve, Jeremy will be happy to know, though, that 09 car of Mike Wallace, a car that just barely got into the Daytona 500 by racing in on Thursday, is up in the top 15 in 14th spot.
12 laps to go in the Great American Race. Only on Fox.
On the corner of Main Street, just trying to keep it in line. I got the green light, I got a little fight. Gonna turn this thing around. Read my mind. I don't mind if you don't mind, 'cause I don't shine if you don't shine. Before you jump, tell me what you find. Read my mind.
10.5 laps away from deciding a winner in the Daytona 500 as you watch our aerial coverage from Goodyear, helping NASCAR drivers get to the finish line for 25 years. Goodyear, get there. Darrell, for Mark Martin, he needs to get out front, but he doesn't need to get too far out front on this restart. Let's listen in.
All right, Mark, 16's talking about wait and letting you get a run, letting you get out there, and then trying to get a run on you. And they're talking about maybe doing it on the last lap or something like that. So just be ready for that. Make sure you don't do something that gets you too far out in front. Roger.
All right, we're coming to get the green, and what Mark needs to do is he goes through the restart here just like normally. Get it back into 4th gear down here in 1 and 2, and then drag the brake just ever so slightly to keep those cars behind you right up tucked underneath of you, because if they do get a run, they will blow by you. And see how that's exactly what Mark is doing. He's keeping the 16 right close by. Don't let him get too much of a run, because
So a big lead right now would be bad.
Oh yeah, no, you're a set and dunk if you get way out there.
They kicked Martin Truex Jr. in the 1 car up out of line. Kyle Busch below the yellow line. As long as he does not advance his position and gives it back, he'll be okay. Yellow line is like out of bounds.
9 laps to go this time.
Great restart for Mark. I mean, that's exactly what he needed to do. Now he has to worry about what are they going to do at the end.
And the irony, Mark Martin raced for Jack Roush for 20 years. Now he has to try to hold off 2 of Roush's best to win the 500.
And there's a third Roush Fenway car back in 5th, Jamie McMurray in the 26 car.
Boy, and the 17 is loose right there. Holy smoly. Hang on to her there, Matt.
And wouldn't John Henry, now the co-owner of Roush Fenway Racing, love to go to victory lane in his first ever NASCAR start as co-owner?
Well, somebody's going to try to mess this party up, and it might just be that little yellow and blue car with 5 on the side of it.
Kyle Busch has been fast all week long. He's around the bottom of the racetrack. He's got the position on Kenseth in the 17.
And you really can't, you go where you can now. This isn't about friends and buddies. This is you go where you can. You make your best move, you take your best shot.
Jeff Burton, 31, the bright orange car, got under Jamie McMurray, and now he is there to give Kyle Busch drafting help in the bottom lane. 8 laps to go.
And we're seeing our pole sitter, David Gillen, in the 38 car. That was a lap down not that many laps ago. He's up there fighting to get in the top 5.
You know, I just had a feeling he was going to find his way back up there. He did that in the Bud Shootout the other night, finished 2nd. He is the fastest car in the field, I believe.
Kyle Busch up to 2nd place.
About all Mark Martin can do is what he's doing right now. Hug that yellow line, listen to a spotter, keep one eye up there in that rearview mirror.
You got that right, and all he's got to do is not open that bottom up and let the 5 car get a nose under him. If he ever shoves him out of line, it's all over.
16 side by side behind the 16.
7 laps to go. Lot of jostling from 5th on back.
And Darrell, it looks like what Kyle Busch will do is going into the corner, move up, and if he can get Mark to move up, that's when he'll stick that nose in there.
Tony Stewart, the other night, what's that slime?
Smoke.
Oh, it's water. Somebody's hot. Tony Stewart the other night put a crossover move behind Kyle Busch, got him loose, and made the pass.
That overflow Reed Sorensen.
There he goes. He got him up.
Wide.
He got him loose, though. Kyle Busch got Mark Martin loose, but he stayed in the throttle. It got back to the bottom of the racetrack.
You know why? You know why Kyle Busch did that? Because it's Mark Martin. He didn't try to push it. He didn't push the issue.
Behind them, they are 4 abreast.
6 laps to go.
What a race. What a finish. Goodness gracious. Mark Martin, hang on, baby.
Watch your bottom.
29 cars within 2 seconds. Packed tighter together than at the start of the race.
That 31 car, where did he come from, Larry? He's all of a sudden the 3rd car back, that orange car.
Jeff
Burton. All of a sudden he shows up.
Another ex-teammate of Mark Martin, Jeff Burton.
He's surrounded by ex-teammates other than the guy in the 5.
Kyle Busch. Jeff Burton walked up the racetrack, got on the side of Greg Biffle in the 16. Now he's going to lose all these positions.
Wide now. 4 wide, back 3
the
wide
17. The 17 is going to be in trouble. He saved it.
They are 4 wide through the trouble. 5 to go.
Tires are smoking, sheet metal dragging, and we're still racing.
But you got to stay in that throttle now.
Look at the dent on the front of Stremmy's car there, the silver car. Tire smoke from the 17. Nobody's going to lift now. There's just 4.5 laps to go in the Daytona 500.
What do you think? Oh, there's a car in trouble.
Jamie McMurray, the 26 car, bounces off the outside wall.
And around they go.
Ricky Rudd, the 88 car. Caution will be out.
Dale Earnhardt Jr.
And remember, when the caution comes out, at the moment of caution, the field is frozen.
What do we got? 5 laps to go, 4 to go this time. It looks like we may get a green-white checkered here.
McMurray is done. Rudd and Earnhardt trying to make it back to the pits.
Boy, Junior's car is crunched.
We will have Stock Car Racing's version of overtime. This race is scheduled for 200 laps. But if we complete 200 laps under caution, we will go to overtime. We'll explain that in a minute. First, let's look at what happened.
I think.
Watch the right side of your screen. McMurray up high.
I think he may have got a little shove from behind. I'm not sure. It looked like that's Kenseth in the 17.
And they just started stacking up from there.
Yeah, the 88 car looked like Rudd just kind of ran in the back of the 26 of McMurray, and boy, from there on, it was on.
I think Rudd had a car to the outside, Darrell. Probably not much he could do.
Probably couldn't.
The Goodyear blimp will probably show us our best angle of how this unfolded. Now watch McMurray on the left of your screen in the high groove, the purple car.
I'm pretty sure that Kenseth's got in the back of him. Looked like maybe Jamie may have had to lift out of the throttle just a little bit. And here comes the rest of these guys. Like I said, we're coming to the end of the race. You don't lift now.
And Darrell, Ricky Rudd could not swerve to the right because Earnhardt was there. And they just all stacked up.
Tight racing quarters. Tight. Yeah, you see McMurray get around there with Matt Kenseth right behind him. Jamie in the 26. Smoke, and you can't really see a lot with the smoke. Car starts swerving. Oh, Rudd got hit from behind. It looked like maybe Dale Jr. lifted him up.
Even though McMurray straightens out, suddenly he's 20 miles an hour slower than everybody else. And here they come.
All you can do is drive and hope that a hole opens up. There's no stopping. You drive it to the bitter end.
There's nothing a spotter can do for you there.
No, you just got to drive through it.
Ricky Rudd's view.
Now let's the hit he gets from behind. And in an incident like that, you can't get your hand up. You can't signal. You say, hey, I'm slowing down. You don't have time to slow down.
And Ricky Rudd's 29th try to win the 500 is over.
And that's just how fast it happens right there. You got a car down on the inside, the 40 car. Strimmy, he's down there smoking. You got the 26 in the wall. Here comes 17.
Wow,
it just all started stacking up.
He did.
You know, Jamie McMurray had a car probably good enough to win this race a year ago and almost had the very same thing happen in the exact spot a year ago.
It's just a real nightmare as a car owner and a driver to run all day long, have a pretty good car, maybe get a decent finish, get the year started off right, and end up like that on the hook.
Now the race is going to be red flag. They will stop the cars coming off turn 2 and clean that area up and then restart them. And the procedure will be when the track is clean, they will wave the green flag. Next time around, they'll wave the white flag, and then the second time by, the checkered flag will end the race. However, after that green flag waves, if there is another caution, the race is over. That's NASCAR's version of overtime.
Now, last year we had 5 races actually end under caution. I think we had like 7 green-white checkers last year.
Last year's Daytona 500 went 203 laps because of overtime. Jimmy Johnson the winner. We still have 28 cars on the lead lap.
I think some of those may only be partial cars.
Greg Biffle's fiance Nicole. Biffle sits in 3rd. Well, you know, time to check in at the Hollywood Hotel.
Let's get that time.
Check it out.
All right, well, we'll be busy next Sunday. NASCAR on Fox heading to California. Last year, Matt Kenseth took home the checkered flag after engine trouble sent Tony Stewart and Greg Biffle into the garage. So what's going to happen this time around? They'll be using unleaded fuel, by the way. First time in a Cup race. In that race, you can tune into the Auto Club 500 presented by Q next Sunday, 3 Eastern, noon Pacific. That's in high definition right here on Fox with Jeff Hammond, Chris Myers in our Hollywood Hotel observing some of the action. And boy, when it gets late in the race and it gets tense, you see how things take place and unfold.
Well, you know what I'm thinking about doing right now? I'm going to cover my eyes because it's getting ready to get even worse as we go further in this thing, because when they drop that green flag on this restart, it's going to be everybody for themselves, and nobody's going to care about the guy in front of them except trying to get to the front, because there's a lot of money at stake. Plus, we've always talked about it. When you go in that victory lane here at Daytona, you come out a changed man.
Well, and our guys have talked about Mark Martin. I mean, all the tries at the Daytona 500, finally out of a Jack Roush Ford and into a Chevy. But to hang on and win this race, he'll have to fight off a guy like Greg Biffle, who, of course, was a former teammate of his.
A teammate of his, but at the same time, you look back here at Kyle Busch driving for Hendrick Motorsports, and we know those cars are very, very fast. And this is the time that you're trying to sit there and maybe kind of psych a guy out. You're maybe looking over and you're looking at that car. There's Greg Biffle right there. I wonder what he's thinking. You look across the way, there's Kyle Busch, and they're looking back at you, and you're wondering, have I got enough to get by?
David Gilliland, the pole sitter. A pole sitter hasn't won the Daytona 500 since Dale Jarrett did it back in 2000. He's worked his way back up to 4th. Elliott Sadler currently 5th. Let's rejoin Darrell, Larry, and Mike.
The field is stopped off turn number 2. The lights are flashing atop the safety car, and that's a jet blower to help clear the track of debris. And that super stretch grandstand full of flash bulbs going off is probably the best shot you're going to get, is when these cars are stopped, as we wait for the track to be cleaned and we can restart. Bottle of water, sir.
Got a little drive-through service there.
Driver service.
Yeah, they take care of the driver. You know, there's not 9 as many as there was a while ago either.
I believe he's seeing if Dale Jarrett in the 44 car has a right rear tire going down.
Oh, he likes those chrome wheels.
Remember when we had a red flag and Sterling Marlin climbed out of his car, tugged on the fender, got penalized, didn't win the Daytona 500.
No, he didn't.
Back in 2002.
I think that's the one that Ward won.
Correct. We have a new tool for NASCAR on Fox this year. It's called Fox 3D. And we can take any car in the field, and through GPS positioning, a little video game type animation, we're going to follow Jamie McMurray through all this. As he gets sideways, cars go by, and without all of the smoke, you get a good idea of what happens as McMurray rolls through that crash scene. And where he tipped Martin Truex, that's how the front end damage happened on Truex's car.
Cars look a little cleaner after that accident on that.
Yes, they do.
With that.
Red flag. We're waiting to restart the Daytona 500. Let's check with Dick Bergman.
Ryan Pemberton is Mark Martin's crew chief, and after a long career in Nextel Cup racing, Ryan has just 1 win. Your driver never won the Daytona 500. What's he got to do to win it today?
Well, he's going to have to put his elbows out and be wide there and make, a lot of good decisions in a couple corners, because they're going to be coming, they're planning on getting a run on the outside. Then if that doesn't work, they're going to try the inside. So there's a lot of good cars right there behind us, a lot of fast cars, the 5, the 16, the 38. You know that they're capable of running fast. So he's going to have to make a couple good moves. Hopefully they'll get too wide behind us, and we can pull it off.
And there is a lot of tension on this pit box, Steve Burns.
Well, Dick Bergen with Alan Gustafson, who grew up just 10 minutes from this racetrack. He is Kyle Busch's crew chief. I heard you tell Kyle, awesome job, but what can you tell him now? It's down to a shootout.
It's down to a shootout. I can tell him we lost 2 races with no tires and 2 tires, and we've got 4 and he's got 2. So we're real happy about that. The CarQuest Kellogg Chevrolet's been good all day long. These guys have done a great job. All the guys back in the shop. Kyle's done a real good job. You know, Kyle doesn't get a lot of credit for being a real good drafter, and I think he's proven he's really good at this speedway stuff.
Good luck, Alan. Let's go to Matt.
And back at the hospital, we're catching up with Dale Earnhardt Jr. First off, Jr., tell us from your vantage point what happened.
Well, we're coming off 2, and I just saw sparks on the wall. I couldn't see what was happening in front of me. I was tucked in behind 88, and I guess some guys were wrecking in me and 88. I ran 88 into it, but we couldn't really stop for it, so just took us out.
I know you're trying to tell your spotter to tell Martin Truex, your teammate, that if he could find somebody a little stronger to go with it, are you guys going to change up your engine package possibly when you go to Talladega?
I would like to. We didn't bring a good bullet to the fight. You know, we didn't have everything we needed to have. We're normally a lot better than this, and it was very frustrating to try to get out there and make things happen, and the car just wouldn't cooperate. But I made some moves too. I mean, it wasn't all the race car there at the end. I wasn't making good moves, and everybody was 3 wide. You didn't know which lane to be in, and it seemed like everywhere you went, it was the wrong lane. But just frustrating. We've had really, really good stuff down here. We need to look back, and we need to just, you know, Yates is still running great with what they have, and it's probably because they're doing the same thing they've been doing all these years, and we used to really be good, and I think that if we look back and try to get our motors back in that power range and those RPMs that we used to run would be better, but we ran a little more RPMs this weekend with a higher package, and just didn't work for me.
Bad luck. 2 straight restrictor plate races for Dale Earnhardt Jr. and the Bud team. Krista?
All right, back to the crew chief roundtable. We've caught up with Pat Tryson, who is now the crew chief for Greg Biffle and the number 16 AmeriQuest Ford. Okay, so you had some help with Matt Kenseth. That's now gone. What's going to happen here on this green-white checker finish? You've got a Ford back there in David Gilliland. Are you going to get some help with him?
I'm not sure what they're going to do, but the AmeriQuest Ford Fusion's been great all day. Greg's done an awesome job, and I'm hoping the 38 stays with us, and we try to get a run on the 5 and the 01 and see if we can't get a Ford in victory lane and hopefully get Greg his first Daytona 500 championship, and we'll see what happens. But I'm hoping the Fords stick together, and if the 38 doesn't get to us, we got some 2 teammates coming. Hopefully that'll give us a good push.
All right, yeah, and he said we were looking for his first Daytona 500 win. Greg Biffle did win at this track in July, but this one, Chris Myers, is just a little bit bigger.
That's right, Krista, and in OT, in a sense, those crew chiefs like coaches. If we were talking about a football game, preparing for that extra period here, and in fact, Ryan Pemberton, his brother Robin Pemberton, former crew chief director of a competition for NASCAR at a time where some drivers are without their regular crew chief in this race.
Yeah, we're seeing several of those cars right now, and they're running quite well. I mean, the 19 car of Elliott Sadler is up to 5th. And I also want to point out the fact that Pat Tryson used to be Mark Martin's crew chief a year ago at Roush. So there's a lot of things I think that are kind of like bizarre and funny that's kind of coming down to the end of this race with 3 laps to go. We've got drivers up there I really honestly didn't really expect to see there.
All right, and here's a quick recap of the whole day. 500 miles. The Daytona 500 started with 30-year-old David Gilliland on the pole. He led the first 18 laps, running in his first ever Daytona 500 and back in the hunt. You see Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, both the Hendrick cars smacking the wall. Gordon hit it twice during the course of the day. Kurt Busch taking the lead. In fact, Kurt Busch has led the most laps in this race. Tony Stewart leading a couple of times, trying to get in front of Kurt Busch after having led earlier, then finally does take the lead after working his way back from 40th. But then down on the apron, Kurt Busch can't hold up and gets into Tony Stewart, who was leading at the time with 47 laps to go. And an apology later from Kurt Busch. Martin Truex Jr., one of the DEI cars, briefly out in front to lead out of that caution. 27 laps to go. Last year's Daytona 500 winner, Jimmy Johnson, involved in a 5-car wreck.
Yeah, he gets loose right there off of turn 2, which we've seen a lot of action there all day long. Big wreck there, but Mark Martin beats Carl Edwards off of pit road and kind of sits the stage right here toward the end of the race, and then all of a sudden Carl Edwards gets in the wall with a little bit of help from one of his teammates, and another incident getting ready to occur when the 22 car comes all the way down pit road with a flat right front tire back up on the racetrack in front of the 21 car of Kenny Schrader, triggering another part of this accident.
Carl Edwards taken out, Reed Sorensen, Ken Schrader, Clint Boyer also involved, and then with about 5 laps to go, Jamie McMurray appears to get bumped, and then Junior actually maybe got into Ricky Rudd, creating another mess that has us here as we have had 9 different leaders, 12 lead changes, and currently under our 6th caution on the red flag out.
Well, right now the biggest thing is, Chris, everybody has got an opportunity to kind of catch their breath, take another deep breath, and get ready for these final 3 laps that I promise you right now will be nail-biting.
So it's the Daytona Survival 500, and Jeff, of the drivers there, obviously Mark Martin in the lead, even though he's never won this in 22 previous tries, given his experience. Is he the guy?
Well, he's the guy right now because I've heard it said too many times by too many drivers this week, if I can get out there in front and have the clean air, I can drive my car where I want to. So I think he's going to have the ability, if he can just keep on that bottom. Larry McReynolds and Darrell Waltrip have said all day long, protect the bottom, force the guys to go to the outside. But he's going to have some help.
And what a day for David Gilliland, his first Daytona 500 on the pole, up to 4th in the 38 car. A kid from California who played high school golf with Tiger Woods, handling big-time pressure. His crew chief is standing by with our Steve Burns.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. The Cinderella story's still alive for David Gilliland. You told me this afternoon, Todd, we were just going to have to tell David to be patient. What a great job you guys have done to rally back.
Yeah, you know, we had that trouble on pit road, you know, just before halfway in the race, and he got in the 7 car leaving the pits, and, you know, elected to come come back in the pits, fix the fender, get the damage fixed. And we come out of the pits, probably worked on it a little bit too long, and got too far behind the draft and lost it. And luckily we had a fast enough car to stay out front, get the lap, first car lap down, get our lap back, and we've got a great race car. This M&M's Ford Fusion's been great, and we've got a pretty doggone awesome race car driver for the first time at Daytona. I was watching the pre-race show, and him getting lost coming in this place. It's pretty cool to be sitting here fourth in the Daytona 500 with a green-white checker, and hopefully we can put this car over in Victory Lane and over in Daytona, USA. But all in all, I'm so proud of this whole team. Robert Yates Racing in general this week has done an awesome job, and we'll just see what happens. Getting ready to go back green.
Good luck, Todd.
Thank you.
Mike?
They have refired engines, and you see the cars moving out behind the safety car. There are still some 30 cars on the lead lap here, and we've been listening in to conversations between Mark Martin and his team.
Need to find Jeff Burton. Need to find somebody that'll be my friend, Jeremy, here in this deal. I know everybody's for themselves, but we got a shot at this thing. We need, if this thing scatters, we need some helpers. We can win this thing.
Thoughts of Mark Martin. Darrell Larry, of the top 10 drivers in the field right now, we're going to have 2 laps to race. None of the top 10 drivers have ever won the 500.
It's amazing that you can come to the 500-mile race like this and end up in a situation like this. What I look is the emotion. Look at Mark Martin. He's got a former teammate in Greg Bethel back here in third. And David Gilliland has got Elliott Sadler, the driver of his car, last year in that car.
You just saw Jack Roush as an owner. He's never won the Daytona 500. And remember, 2005 was going to be Mark Martin's final year in Cup. Jack Roush talked him into driving that 6 car again last year.
And again, and again.
Coming up tonight on Fox, The Simpsons, King of the Hill, Family Guy, and American Dad. A fun night on Fox. But first, we have the Daytona 500 to conclude. We're going to race 2 laps, green, white, checker. If the caution comes out again, the race is over, and NASCAR will use any and all available information, including video from all of our Fox angles, 90 cameras strong, to determine the order of finish at the moment of caution. Hopefully that won't be needed.
And Darrell, Mark Martin has been making restarts in Nextel Cup for 26+ years. He's fixing to make the most important restart of his career.
You know, it's not just the first race for all of these teams at Daytona. First race of the season for NASCAR on Fox. Barry Landis in the producer seat with Richie Zients and Artie Kempner and all of the folks, over 200 people strong it takes to put on this telecast for you to enjoy. Great pictures, great replays, and we're happy to have all you folks at home along for the ride.
Here's what I think will happen. I mean, it's just I think that David Gilliland is going to help Mark Martin win this race. He may not mean to, but I think David Gilliland doesn't want to mess up. I believe that Kyle Busch and Greg Biffle will hop to the outside and try to go around Mark. Then Gilliland will run right up behind Mark and push him home.
I'm with you, Darrell, because what we've seen from David Gilliland, who won the pole at Talladega in October and won the pole here for Daytona, is he likes that yellow line and his car works well at the bottom of the racetrack. So, Larry, if Mark stays on the bottom as the leader, Gilliland will fill in behind Mark Martin, and we'll see where Kyle Busch and Greg Biffle go.
And that's exactly what David Gilliland did a week ago in the Budweiser shootout. He stayed on the bottom. He was content to run second.
Yeah, and the thing is, he's impressed me because he's got that thing that we always talk about. Don't beat yourself. And he's done that all day long. Had trouble in the pits, but he overcame it, and now here he sits with a good finish.
Mark Martin was a driver who beat himself. His first try at Nextel Cup Racing, not too successful. He went back in the Midwest to run ASA, and then he and Jack Roush got together for a 20-year partnership that produced everything except a Cup championship and a Daytona 500 win. So Mark, as you said, he retired. He came back for Roush last year. Went back into semi-retirement. Bobby Ginn says, I need you to come and help us with young drivers. Drive most of the season in this Army car. Help Regan Smith get adapted. Mark said he'd do it. He says he's having a blast.
I've said all along, he will help that company because Mark knows how a car is supposed to handle and what it's supposed to feel like. I believe that's something he brought to the table. That's a real asset.
This is it, folks. cinch your belts up, because when they wave the green flag this time by, we will race up to 2 laps to determine the winner.
Mark Martin right now truly is an army of one.
These teams, this is the 2 laps these guys have been working for all winter long and for months even before the 2006 season ended.
When the green flag waves, the race is on. If the caution waves, it's over. If they complete the 2 laps, it's over. Martin, Busch, Biffle, Gilliland, Sadler, green flag.
I don't believe he can wait very long, Larry. I believe if you're going to make the move, you got to make it quick. I don't think you can wait too long. If they're going to get him, they need to jump to the outside right away.
Watch your bottom there.
You know he's not going to give up the bottom, so you got to go to the outside.
Still.
And look at the outside line. Jeff Gordon in that 24 car with his teammate Casey Mears, but Casey leaves him out there.
Now, 1 back. All single file behind you. He's coming hard, about half back now.
Now, when these guys on the outside, when they get side by side with these other cars, they're done. We're coming to the white flag.
It's up to the 5 of Kyle Busch. How long can he wait if he's going to go?
Still single file.
White flag, 1 lap to go.
Coming to the white, man. Coming to the white. Single file behind you. 5,
Front
16,
4,
38.
single file.
Here they go. They got to go. They got to get Mark. They got to move him somehow.
He gets back to that yellow line right around the bottom, all the way through turn 1 and 2.
Mark Martin is driving the race of his life, and there's nobody that's better at holding people off at Daytona.
And Kyle Busch lagged back a little bit. Is he going to get help? Is he going to come? He's looking.
Back behind you.
He almost squeezed Harvick into the wall, and here comes Harvick, the 29, with Matt Kenseth.
Oh, Mark got loose. Mark got loose.
And Harvick's getting a run off turn 4. It's going to be a drag race all the way back to the start-finish line. No caution. They're side by side, right to the line.
Big crash. Here they come. Checkered flag. Harvick. Kevin Harvick wins the Daytona 500.
We got 1 car on his roof coming across the start-finish line.
They're still wrecking. They're wrecking everywhere. Boyer's on fire. Jeff Gordon's wrecked.
And they are still wrecking.
Montoya, Stremme, Kenseth, Biffle, Marlin, Carl Edwards, Casey Mears all crashed on the final lap. Have you ever?
Well, a couple of times.
I'm going to repeat what I heard a few years ago. No, I have never.
I got so excited I broke the damn mirror in half.
Jeff Gordon's day ends about like his teammates.
Clint Bowyer came across the start-finish line on his roof.
I've seen fire and I've seen rain.
David Stremme's climbed out. He is okay. Sterling Marlin, who slid across to a stop.
Well, Larry, let's see. Are they going to run these cars anymore?
They were intending on it, but I don't think many of them will.
It may be a good time to bring the old car tomorrow out.
What was the margin of victory for Kevin Harvick? Unofficially 2/100ths of a second.
I thought Mark had him. I thought he was going to hold him.
And Mark Martin, a bridesmaid once again.
He's got to be thrilled, though. What a finish.
Bakersfield, California's Kevin Harvick, who took over the seat in what became the 29 after the death of Dale Earnhardt, stormed up the outside. Kyle Busch couldn't hold him off. He had a full head of steam into turn 3.
There was no question you were going to have to go the outside. Mark was not going to give up the inside. What happens back here is Kyle Busch gets on the apron ever so slightly, gets into the 17, and it's on from there. Look at the 38 car up on top of somebody. There's a car turning over.
And look at this finish.
And it's a drag race to the line, and we've seen Harvick do that before.
Yes, we have. You could see Harvick trying to pinch him down to keep that momentum on him.
A little side draft. Get a little side draft and try to pull ahead.
Now, unofficially, Jeff Burton will finish 3rd. Mike Wallace will finish 4th. And the top finishing Roush car, rookie David Reagan in the 6th.
And he may have toasted the number 29.
I think he broke another transmission.
Congratulations to Chevy driver Kevin Harvick, winner of the Daytona 500 from Chevy, an American Revolution.
What a weekend he's had. Busch race yesterday.
And Mark Martin having a tremendous Daytona 500.
We were ahead, man. I was waiting for them to throw the yellow.
I agree, Mark. I thought they were going to. I thought maybe they would throw the yellow before they got here, but they didn't.
Third place, Jeff Burton congratulates Harvick. And where's the other RCR car? Watch the 07. It'll come in here from the right in the bottom lane. Clint Boyer gets slid sideways. Whammo.
And he'll cross the start-finish line unofficially upside down in the 18th position.
On fire. I mean, that's Joey Chitwood couldn't do that.
Boyer making a hasty exit through a small window opening. That's one of the things that's going to be addressed by the car of tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm just glad he's landed back on his wheels with that fire, because he didn't want to be trapped down in there. NASCAR does such a great job. Goodness. That's terrifying.
Sterling Marlin, the 14 car, was spinning down pit road, actually hit the pit wall.
Until now, 1976 and 79 were the wildest Daytona 500 finishes ever. New one for the record books. Matt is with Mark Martin.
And he's climbed from the car. You can see the disappointment on he and his crew members' faces. Mark, first off, take us on that last lap. It looked like basically you had the 5 covered. And then out of nowhere comes the 29.
Well, we saw him up there, and we just doing everything we could. You know, it was a Daytona 500, man. I just want to thank Bobby Ginn and everybody at Ginn Racing, and especially the U.S. Army team. I'm so proud to be a part of this team. They gave me a chance at a Daytona 500. That's all I ever asked. I really hate I let them down. I gave it what I could, but I didn't get it done. I really thought they were going to throw the caution. I was still ahead, and they were wrecking behind, and if they would have just thrown the yellow, it was in our fingers, but they waited and they waited and they waited, and I didn't have any pusher at the end, you know, and he was in the, you know, in the preferred spot for second back forward. But just want to thank everybody for all their support. I wanted to win that thing. They were going to have to pry it out of my fingers, man. And I was looking back to see if we had any help, but I didn't see any back there, and it's just short.
You always try to compartmentalize everything, but did you let yourself begin to think maybe this is the year, looking at the situation?
Hey, this is green-white checkered in the Daytona 500. I knew we had, I knew the race was on, and man, we got so far down the line. I saw him get that run. I tried to block it, and then I got back down, and, you know, minus the wreck and everybody coming through there good with a good pusher, we still had it done. I really still thought, you know, as we entered turn 3, that we were going to get it done, and then they started wrecking, and we were still ahead of him. But, you know, just wasn't meant to be. I didn't get the job done.
Mark Martin finishes second in the Daytona 500.
But boy, he did a whale of a job. You see Kevin Harvick's car sitting in Gatorade Victory Lane. He took the checker under green to decide the winner of the race. The caution immediately followed, so officially the race ends under caution. So now let's go down to Dick Berggren with the GM winning interview.
And Kevin Harvick on his way out. Confetti. Son of, oh man, what a mess down here. Hey Kevin, where did you get that head of steam at the end of the race to win the Daytona 500?
Well, I had Jeff Burton behind Matt Kenseth, and Kenseth just pushed the hell out of me there. This Shell Pennzoil Chevrolet got a little hot. We had to come in and take some tape off. We had a hole in the nose, and man, my go-kart experience over the winter paid off because I didn't let off the floor, and we just kept hitting things in the wall and just bouncing off everything. But, man, this is a Daytona 500. Can you believe it? That was just do you believe it? I can't believe it. I mean, we were 30-something there with 15 laps to go, and we came up through there. But just got to thank Richard and Todd Berry and all these guys just for an awesome race car.
Congratulations to
Thank
you.
you.
Well done. Mike?
protege of Rick Corelli, the Bakersfield, California racer. Wife Delana embracing him. Today, the Daytona 500 has changed the life of Kevin Harvick forever.
Dadgum, it makes me, you know, Daytona puts tears in the eyes. I don't care whether you're down there or up here. It's what an accomplishment.
They are crying in celebration, and others will be crying in frustration. Let's have a look at what happened here on the final lap.
Look where Harvick is, coming down the back.
But look at this run he got. He called it. Matt Kenseth in that 17 car. You see Kyle Busch tried to go up and block, but he had such a head of steam it was too late.
Yeah, I think all that moving around is probably what got Kyle. It messed his entry up into turn 3, and then I think it might have just upset his car a little bit, and he gets loose right there under Kenseth 17 car, and it's on from there.
And at the wire.